Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Hoopsville on this Sunday evening, January 27th, 2019. I am Dave McHugh, and it was another one of those weeks. Another one of those weeks where we talked on Thursday about how things were calm and collected and no big deal. It's not going to be the end of the world. This is gonna work out nicely. Well, that's why they play the games, as they say. Immediately, a crazy, wild, and wacky week has ensued. If you were a number one team, you had a big game on Saturday. Bowdoin in women's basketball took on number 4 Amherst. And Amherst was up big at one point before Bowdoin came roaring back and won that one at home, 65-56. First conference loss in season for Amherst since 2016. And we talked about the fact that Amherst had to go play Tufts and Bowdoin this season on the road. And we wondered how that would make a difference. That has been revealed. Amherst takes its second loss of the season. They're obviously still in the fray, but it changes things, to say the least. Also to see Amherst defensively allow a team back in after having a significant lead. Pretty significant, to say the least. So really interesting on the women's side. I think if anything, it may allow Bowdoin maybe to now separate themselves from Thomas More. Because remember, in my opinion, the voters are looking at a Bowdoin team and out of the NESCAC they think is good, but doesn't have a lot on their schedule that screams, wow, look at me. Whereas Thomas More has now played 23 games. They beat Geneva this weekend 90-57. And has beaten some very good teams along the way. Now Bowdoin has beaten Amherst. And there's a chance now that that tie for first that we've had the last 2 weeks between these two teams, broken up technically by number one votes going to Bowdoin by 1, 13-12, that most likely, I would not be surprised, and the top 25 comes out tomorrow, Bowdoin now distance themselves. I think that win over Amherst may sway a few voters. Not that they dismiss Thomas More, but they just may flop them or flip them. A lot of voters have Bowdoin 1, Thomas More 2, except for one who's got Bowdoin at 3rd. No, I don't know who. You can just do the math and figure that out. I think I wouldn't be surprised if a couple Thomas More voters switch to Bowdoin. That's what I think would happen. There's also that voter who's got Bowdoin 3rd may move them up to 2nd. Who knows who they've gotten 2nd? It may be Amherst for all we know. They may move them up. And another factor in play here is the fact that Scranton women lost. The number 3 team in the country lost to Elizabethtown 64-56. This is after defeating Drew 56-44 this week. Well, not that Drew was a big game, but it kind of felt like they got it just perfectly timed for E-Town. E-Town was looking at a 4-game slide if they hadn't beaten Scranton. So E-Town ends a 3-game slide and hands Scranton its first loss. So you have teams 3 and 4 who've all lost. And by the way, Wesleyan played 4 games this week. They played Wesleyan, Farmingdale State, Colby, and Bowdoin. A long week. Maybe that had something to do with tired legs at the end of that Bowdoin game. Who knows? But you've lost 2, 3, and 4 have lost. So now St. Thomas, Tufts, Mary Hardin, Baylor come into this mix. So does Messiah, all with 1 loss. How does that also affect the Thomas More Bowdoin conversation? Again, I think Bowdoin now distances themselves, and by the way, a few points is a distance, with Thomas More on the women's side. Yeah, I'm going to be fascinated to see how that turns out as one who does not vote in that top 25, obviously. On the men's side, oh, by the way, the number 1 team did lose. Nebraska Wesleyan losing to Loras 84-76. Of course, Loras, the 22nd ranked team in the country. Hold on a second. As I try and fix something, I wanted to make sure our chat was up and running. And I just realized we don't have our chat up and running, so I apologize to everybody who may be chatting with us, and I'm just now getting around to checking out those chats. So I will warn you now, if you've made a comment in our chat room, I have missed it. So go ahead and repeat it, and I will catch it now and make a comment back. On the men's side, Nebraska Wesleyan losing, certainly a surprise. As we welcome you into Hoopsville here on this Thursday evening. Of course, Hoopsville presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Nebraska Wesleyan, the number one team in the country, goes down to Loras 84-76. A surprise for a lot of reasons, though I'm not surprised. To be blunt, I'm not surprised. I have said all season, if you've listened to the show or read my blog, that I did not expect anybody to go undefeated this season. I did not expect Nebraska Wesleyan, as good as they've gotten in the offseason and as much depth as I did not expect them to go undefeated. I didn't expect Augustana or Whitman, Whitworth, Oshkosh, you name a team. I expected nobody to be undefeated, at least through the regular season and most importantly into the NCAA tournament. I did not see it I didn't see it as possible. There's too much parity. There are too many good games. There's too many good teams. Was I surprised that Nebraska Wesleyan went this long? Yeah, we could argue that I was surprised by that. I thought Nebraska Wesleyan would take a hit earlier in the season, though admittedly, I'm not sure maybe where that hit earlier in the season could have come. Granted, they've already played Loras once. They didn't have anything that jumps out at you. I don't think Grinnell or St. Norbert would have been that team. They played George Fox and Linfield. There's an outside chance. So Loras might have been it, and it really, I thought maybe could have been the Loras game back on the 5th. Granted, that game was played in Lincoln, Nebraska. This one being played at Loras, and that was the advantage. And if you look at the two games, they're somewhat eerily similar. Loras loses at Nebraska Wesleyan 89-71. They win at home 84-76. If you were to deduce anything by that, Nebraska Wesleyan's the better team, but home court worked in Loras's favor. Loras now has defeated both the top two teams in the country in men's basketball. Both Nebraska Wesleyan and Augustana own a loss, and they're both to Loras. I think Loras, as a result, has proven that they are a very good top 25 team. You've got some losses in there that are going to question. The loss to Dubuque, you may kind of roll your eyes at, but remember, that's also a rivalry game, so I don't take too much stock in it. We'll talk a lot more about this with Bob Quillman. Someone else put an interesting point on the board, and I think it was Ryan Scott, who talked about mulligan games. We'll talk to Bob a little bit about that. Bob joining us tonight versus Ryan, who was unable to join us this evening. So I'm really interested to see how this is all going to work. Dan, I get that you like Oshkosh, my man. Oshkosh is still doing well. And yes, back to this. The debate now is going to become on the men's side, who do you vote for number one? There are 4 teams with 1 loss. Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, Whitman, and Oshkosh. I'm currently voting for Nebraska Wesleyan, so is all the 25 voters are voting for Nebraska Wesleyan number one. Now the question becomes, who do you vote for? I'm not going to give you my thoughts on it now. I know some of you are probably angry by that. Bob Quillman's coming on later. Our debatable conversation is going to be, what do you do with that number one vote? They weren't the only ones that lost. Whitworth lost to Willamette this weekend, 95-93. That one surprised me a great deal. I think Whitworth is one of the best Whitworth teams they've ever had is on that floor. But this is what happens once in a while. And I got to go back and dive into the game. I had to take some time yesterday and not watch games, though that one was on late enough I could have, for a daddy-daughter responsibility with the school. There was a dance, and I needed to do that and spend time with my daughter. Because basically, let's be honest, they're losing me for the next 6 to 8 weeks, period, on weekends. Not that they haven't lost me already, but they're definitely losing me for the next 8 weeks. Whitworth, every once in a while when they have to go deep on the bench, they get in trouble. Now, they went deep in the bench against Whitman because of foul trouble, and they got through it. But their other loss this season, besides that Whitman game, was because they had to go deep in the bench. Now, I don't know if that's what happened against Willamette. I'm going to have to double-check. But foul trouble is Whitworth's Achilles heel. The other thing is sometimes I think they lose focus. And we saw that a little bit in Las Vegas. I still think they're a top 10 team. They are darn good. But that's now their third loss, and you got to figure the pressure is on now because they've got to still play Whitman at least one more time. Now the conference race has gotten a little bit more interesting, and Whitworth at least wants to stay in the 2-hole. Regional rankings coming out in 10 days-ish. They want to be back still in that conversation that forces the committee to split the Whits. If Whitworth takes another couple of losses, let's just say one, I think it gets more interesting and more difficult for the committee to split them. 4-loss team, it might be hard to say, yeah, we definitely got to move them because they're the 5th-ranked team in the region. And I'm spitballing on those numbers. Don't take those for legit. So that loss to Willamette could come back to bite the Pirates big time. Hamilton lost to Colby. Colby was a buzzsaw this weekend. Went through Amherst and Hamilton. Hamilton is high at 6. I'll be blunt. But here's the trick. I've got them at 6. I don't like them at 6. But until now, I haven't had a lot of teams I felt comfortable putting ahead of them. Now I've got a lot because that loss to Colby, I think, hurts. I'm not saying Colby isn't a good team. They beat Amherst and Hamilton. But that's still a loss you can't take, especially after you beat Bowdoin 77-42. You got to go and handle Colby, especially when you know they beat Amherst. You got to be ready for the Mules. And Hamilton loses that game. I'm guarantee you, look at the box score. It's a turnover problem. Dan says, we'll get to that in a second, Dan. Wabash lost to Worcester. I watched that game. The game was at Worcester. Worcester needed to win that game at Timken. Worcester got up by an 11-0 lead, I think, before Wabash fought back in it. If you listen to the announcers, apparently the referees were all in favor of Wabash. Couldn't have been lesser from the truth, but we'll move on from that. That is a game Worcester needed to win. It just makes things more confusing for I have not voted for Worcester this season once. Maybe now I need to consider it. They are 16-3, and with a win over Wabash, I need to really consider that Worcester is probably better than I've given them credit for. Hats off to Randolph-Macon. They got past Lynchburg. Lynchburg on a 2-game slide this week is going to hurt their ranking, but hats off. I think that's a signature win for a Yellow Jackets team that is showing that they are darn good this season. St. John's, we mentioned, had lost to St. Thomas back on Monday, but they beat St. Mary's handily and Hamlin by 12. Those are good bounce-back wins. We mentioned Lynchburg lost both, one to non-ranked Guilford, who was receiving votes, and one to Randolph-Macon. Both games close, by the way. A 6-point loss to Guilford in overtime, a 6-point loss to Randolph-Macon. Christopher Newport, we've talked about them being way too high, possibly. They barely got past Salisbury, who was receiving votes, and they barely lost to York on the road. Nothing against the captains. I'm not buying. I'm just not buying. Maybe I'm missing something, but I just don't see it. We'll see how they are treated by the voters. Pomona Pitzer's really weird at 16 with one loss. They haven't played anybody. I'm not even voting for them. Amherst had an up-and-down season. I think I mentioned last show they lost to Eastern Connecticut, and that's a mistake on my part. Either I saw a score wrong or I just misinterpreted something. I don't know what I did. They beat Eastern Connecticut. Then they lost to Colby and beat Bowdoin. So they literally had a flip-flop weekend to Hamilton because they both lost to Colby. They both beat Bowdoin in similar fashions, just in different orders. Stevens Point got back on the right side of things, beat Stout and beat Eau Claire and beat them handily and held them to low scores. That was impressive. Rochester, they're going to be coming out of the top 25. Lost to Brandeis today, and hats off to Brandeis on the season they're having, by the way. Absolutely hats off to the judges. They are having a tremendous season considering their off season. I am really impressed with what Brandeis has been doing this season. They aren't world beaters, but they're good. Rochester takes their 4th loss. I'm not going to vote for them. I suspect they lose a ton of votes here, and I'm not sure any UAA team gets in right now. We'll talk more about that later in the show. Loris, we mentioned, lost to Wartburg, by the way, early in the week, and we said on Thursday's show they need to beat Nebraska Wesleyan or on a 2-game slide. I think they're out of the top 25 if that had been the case. They beat Nebraska Wesleyan. Hats off to them. Wittenberg, they're going to come out of the top 25. We mentioned that. They lost to DePaul, beat Allegheny, means nothing. And Wesleyan's going to come out of the top 25, losing to Tough 75-71. Wesleyan just too inconsistent for my own liking. We can go through a whole host of other things. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other losses in the receiving votes category. Dan mentions brutal weather in the Midwest this week might impact games. Absolutely agree with you. That weather will also move somewhat to the northeast, so I think it will have less impact. It says only matters with the seeds of the tourney to be reasonable. Unfortunately, the 500-mile radius seldom does that equitably. Of course, welcome to Division 3. You think Oshkosh or Augie will be one, Dan? I don't agree with you. I think voters will still be voting for Nebraska Wesleyan. I think Oshkosh will get a look. I think what gets interesting is I think all 4 teams, Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, Whitman, and Oshkosh, will all get first-place votes. Who comes out of that in number 1 is up for grabs. But I don't think it comes down to just Augustana or Oshkosh. I think Whitman sitting 3rd and Oshkosh sitting 4 with a distance of 17 points tells you enough that Whitman's got some love that could keep them above Oshkosh no matter how the first-place votes break down. Ira Thor says Nebraska Wesleyan will be his number 1. There's an example. There's at least one voter who's publicly already telling you who his number 1 is. I will tell you my number 1 by the end of the night. You got to stick around, but I will tell you by the end of the night who I think the number 1 team will be. Daryl says, well, Whitworth's men's inability of putting together a full game lately finally caught up with him last night, and now on Whitman Tuesday night, they lack focus, intensity at times, and drives me nuts. Daryl, I agree with you. I think it's still one of the best talented teams Whitworth has put on the floor this season, but it's the going deep in the bench and not playing a full 40 all the time that is understandably going to drive people crazy. I still think they're a top 10 team, maybe higher than that. I don't agree with those who think they aren't that great, but I do get frustrated with the lack of focus on that team. I don't know where it is. Sometimes guys decide to do things on their own. Some guys disappear. They take some teams a little too lightly. They cannot do that, and they're going to play themselves into not being shipped out that first weekend absolutely 6 ways to Sunday if they don't get smart here. Let's talk quickly about who's on the show because we got a tight show and I got to keep things moving tonight. Keep your questions coming. By the way, our email may be acting up. Hoopsville@d3hoops.com is how you can interact with us via email. To be honest with you, we haven't gotten any emails this month. We've had a couple of test emails come back to us a couple hours later as it didn't work. So if you go to d3hoops.com under the Contact Us, you'll find my email address, dave.mchugh, dave.mchugh@d3sports.com. Go ahead and email there temporarily. We'll fix the bottom crawl. I just don't think Hoopsville works, and I apologize to those who have tried. Let's quickly talk. We're going to jump back into women's basketball coming up next. Randy Tuggle will join us here on the show, the Greensboro women's coach. They were neck and neck for the top of the East Division in the USA South until they lost to Averett, but we'll talk to Randy about that. Nicole Sarcone will join us from Staten Island. She's a first-year head coach at Staten Island. They're on top of the CUNYAC right now. We'll talk to her about all of that. Coming up in the NABC Coaches Corner tonight, Gary Stewart from Stevenson joins us. Gary is very involved with the NABC. He has a rich Division III history with a little bit of a Division I mixed in. We'll talk to him about all of that and his maybe quote-unquote surprising Mustang squad. If the MAC Commonwealth could vote better, maybe they wouldn't be a surprise. We'll talk to Gary coming up. Todd Murphy from Gordon will join us representing the Northeast region, talking to him about the battle in the Triple C Conference, especially the battle with Endicott, who they've already got a win over right now. And then Bob Quillman will join us for the Top 25 Double Take. We'll talk to Bob. Ryan's not here tonight. We'll talk to him about who the debatable team is and who you're going to vote for number 1. But then we will buy and sell some teams tonight. Did you get all that? Were you following along? Were you taking notes? I hope you were on all of it because we got a lot to jam in tonight, and I'll still try and take your questions throughout the show. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. We'll be back with more Hoopsville when we come back.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
The love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics. And in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Reed, head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here on this Thursday or Sunday evening. I think I said Thursday earlier in the show. That's how much my brain hasn't gotten figured out. Just a reminder, coming up on Thursday, we'll have our marathon show. It's officially going to start at 12 o'clock Eastern time, a little bit later than we have in the past. We're trimming some hours off the show. This year, we're aiming for about an 8-hour show. I've got a long list of guests. We've got some special guests that are going to be on the show. Really looking forward to it. Hope you'll tune in between 12 and 8 o'clock Eastern time on Thursday as we celebrate everything Division III basketball, and at the same time get everybody ready, because in a week's time from that point, we'll be talking regional rankings. So lots to talk about. We love getting in a little bit of extra time. And so again, 12 o'clock Eastern time next week on Hoopsville. It'll be this time 8 or so hour marathon. All right, so women's basketball, let's start back on that topic here tonight. If you look in the USA South, it's always an interesting battle, one that honestly kind of makes me kind of shake my head, because it's less understood and more confusing than it really needs to be sometimes. What's really fascinating sometimes, though, is the teams that emerge, even though you're looking elsewhere. And we were looking at Greensboro for a little bit this week in the East region, East Division. We knew they were in a battle with Averett. We knew William Peace was lurking behind them. Another fascinating race was on the other side between Piedmont and Berea. We thought, yeah, we'll go with Greensboro. Then you go back today after the results and go, oof, geez, now they're 2 games, or really a game behind Averett. Missed that one. Well, it's because Averett got past him. And I think it proves that the USA South is a challenging conference this season. Joining us on the Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of the Greensboro Pride. Sorry, tap dancing there. I'm not even sure Coach heard us, but joining us. Yep, we did lose him. We'll try and get him right back. Apologize, folks. I hit the wrong button, and we're going to do a quick redial and get him back. Again, this is a conference that, listen, it doesn't produce world beaters, but sometimes it produces some really good quality teams. And it's also huge. It makes things very difficult sometimes for conferences to figure out. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline Live, it is Coach Randy Tuggle. Coach, thanks for taking the time, and sorry for hanging up on you earlier.
I thought I might have thought something wrong.
Yeah, I did something stupid, clearly. It happens.
I understand. I'm in coaching, so I understand.
Yeah, it's touche. Yeah, I'm in broadcasting. And I said to somebody, there's no such thing as a perfect show, and we're already right out of the gate ruining the perfection.
Hey, well, at least we're talking now.
Yeah, there you go. You didn't get to hear much of the intro, but what I had said was, keeping track of the East and West, there's some fascinating races, Piedmont and Berea with Huntington lurking and Maryville a little off their game. You guys and Averett were in a good battle, and then all of a sudden I went back and looked and went, oops, something's different here. Well, Averett tripped you guys up. But I felt it shows just how good this conference is, flying a little bit under the radar.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, like you said, the only thing that hurts us is because of some of the schools that we have that aren't very good, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm not trying to put anybody down. I'm not going to say any names,
sure. No, yeah, absolutely.
Our RPI gets killed.
Yeah.
And, when I first took over the head coaching job, we had 3 teams at one time in it. Now, at that time, we had Christopher Newport in our conference.
That helped.
Yeah. And it became, we had 3 teams, and we have, 1 automatic qualifier and 2 at large. I think if you look at the top of the brackets, we've got some good, like you said, we've got some really good teams that have each year in and year out, have done extremely well.
What is the secret at this point? Because you guys have a grind, and your schedule in the conference has changed a lot over the years because you have so many teams. I went through and was a little surprised. Correct me if I'm not wrong. You're not even playing the other division. Is that correct?
That's it.
Yeah, so it used to be you played double round robin, then it was a double round robin plus the other side. You played them once. Right. Now you're not even playing them. How do you keep up with all those changes?
That's a great question. They don't pay me enough to keep up with it. So I just whoever we're supposed to play. Yeah, whoever we're supposed to play, we go to the next one. We have 18 teams in our conference. And
it's not funny.
We play. No. And the thing is, it's, when we brought in Maryville and Piedmont, and we first brought in 4 of them. It was Maryville, Piedmont, Huntington, and LaGrange. And that's when we got the 3 bids.
Right.
Then we started, then all of a sudden, the Great South, I think, was the conference that they originally were in.
Yeah, the GSAC.
They started coming in. Well, they had an automatic bid, USA South or the Dixie, whatever at the time. We had an at-large bid. We had an automatic bid. Now we just have 1, but yet we got 18 teams. And like I said, it's we talked to them about it, and no, can't help you. So it was kind of like, okay, well, that's really good because you got 18 teams that used to take up 2 spots, now only take up 1.
Well, and that's the challenge there is you guys have gotten so big for what is only allowed to be 1 bid for the conference.
Right.
And that's just the way it's written. The MIAC is huge, the ASC South is huge, or the ASC period is huge, and it's obviously problematic. Right. Is there a solution here, though? Can this be somehow resolved? And I realize I'm putting you on the spot here, and you can go wherever you want with this. Or is there going to be there needs to be a legitimate split?
I don't think we will ever get another bid.
No, you're not. That's clear. You might get at large, but you mean automatic bids. Right. No, they're not coming.
I don't think. I think it will be it'll be a split, especially now with basically 2 divisions.
Right.
I don't know. It's nothing in the works that I know of. And I'm assistant athletic director too.
Right.
That we're going to do this or we're going to do that. There's not a plan, but I just don't see. I don't know. Like I said, we got some that were. The all-girls schools that now we've got a couple that have gone co-ed.
Right.
I think that's going to help out. One about, I think the big thing was
enticing people to move around.
Right. Well, plus, I think when Christopher Newport moved out, when we brought in the 4 schools I told you about,
right,
they were going to have to go from where they are. It was like a 10-hour drive to go to Huntington.
Right.
And it was kind of like, we can't do that. We can't do that. We can't fly a football team all the way down there to play,
Sure.
And so that's why they left. Well, then I think it hurts our male side of the sports because, like, football is big. And we just got, I think it's just a matter of hopefully working something out. But like I said, when we went from playing, the other side, the only time we see them is in the conference tournament.
Yeah.
So, and it's kind of like, okay, that's not good. But like I said, you deal with what you could deal with. It's above my pay grade, and I just work at what I got.
We'll talk sometime off air because I'd be curious on what might be in the works down the road. But your team alone, obviously the loss to Averett stings a little bit.
Yeah.
I know that game was one you guys probably felt you needed after you beat them 83-67. You came back in non-conference play today against Regent, non-division play against Regent, and won that one easily. Is the Averett game going to going to hurt later, or do you think you can avenge that to some degree? You won't play them until the tournament, but can you maybe get them back? Are they vulnerable for a couple losses themselves?
Well, I think they got one more game that, I mean, as far as in the conference, that will be interesting for them to be able to see if we can do. Yeah, it hurt because we could have gone. If we'd have won, we would have been 2 games up on everybody in our division.
Yeah,
you know, and with 5 games left, 5 conference games left. We just my team is not a team that likes to run plays. We have trouble running plays, so that's why we do a lot of, you know, pressure and getting the ball down the court quick, and it takes a lot of energy. And you know, the past week or two, I guess it's because of the season and because of what we're doing, we came out so pathetic. And like I said, it really hurt us, and we got down. I mean, we were down 12 at half, and then in the second half, the kids came out, played hard. We got back. We had a chance to tie it. We missed 2 putbacks right under the basket that at least tied the game up. And but yeah, it was kind of, we went from, like I said, a two game lead over everybody to now we're tied with Averett, and so we've got to get somebody else's help to win it outright, or we better make darn sure that we you know, win the games that we got left, so at least we can be tied for first, and then the tiebreakers, I think we might be up on them on that.
Are you worried? Your schedule includes a lot of non-Division III teams: Regent twice, Piedmont International twice, Mid-Atlantic Christian twice. I feel, you know, unfortunately, it feels like you put all your eggs, and by the way, all your eggs, unfortunately, into the AQ or no AQ scenario. Does that put some pressure now on the tournament a little bit?
Oh, it definitely does, because, to be honest with you, like I said, we've had a couple of good teams in the past two years that didn't get any qualifying. I mean, you know, we have right now, because, like I said, the RPI, we have to win. I mean, we have to win the tournament. There's no ifs, buts, or maybes about it.
But to some degree, does that make it easier?
Well, yeah. I mean, that way. Well, I mean, that's where you can focus,
right?
You know. Now, because if you don't focus on that, then you're putting everything in somebody else's hand. You know, I gotta hope that somebody on the board will vote for us. You know, for us to get into it as an at-large bid or something like that. So, and you know, it like I said, I think the bottom line is every year for the past is we've always looked we got to win the conference tournament. You know, we don't even have to win the conference. We just got to win the conference tournament to get in, you know. So
let's talk about your team a little bit. Katie Lewis leading the way, 13.5 points a game, nearly 5 rebounds as well. You all hand out assists, so it's almost pointless to mention who the leading assist player is. But that's, by the way, Daly. I can't even say Katie Lewis, who we're talking about. I don't even know how to say Daly's first name.
Call her Sha.
Sa, good, I will. She leads the team in assists, but second on the team in scoring at 12.5 points a game is Woods, and then you have Joseph and Best both at 9+ points and 8+ points from Free and Jeffries. So while you've only got 2 players in double figures, you go about 6 deep there of legitimate scoring threats for a team that averages 76 points a game. That's got to be a little bit of a I'm not even sure the right word I want to use, but it's got to make your life a little easier because you know you've got options if someone's not having the best of nights.
Well, yeah, we don't have a person that I can say, hey, I need 20 from you tonight.
Right.
But I got 7 or 8 kids that could get me 20 points. you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
We got some shooters tonight. We played a team. To be honest with you, they were pretty decent. They just didn't have any depth, and that's what we've been working on all year long. If you look at the minutes played, we have 10 kids averaging double-digit minutes. Now, that hurts my top players in the conference because if you look at Katie's playing like 26 minutes and averaging 13. Well, if she was playing 35, 40 minutes, she'd probably be averaging 20. Easy. And that's what's happened is, you know, but I'm being dead serious when I say my team doesn't run plays very well. So we push it, try to get some quick shots, look for mismatches, and kind of get shots up. As the game tonight, we shot 55% from the floor. Okay.
Yeah.
We shot 41% from three. We've done that a number of times this year. We've shot over 50% in the game, and it's because if we had 26 assists tonight, 27 assists tonight, it's because we make one more pass.
Sure.
And I don't have don't get me wrong. The other night when we were trying to win the game against Averett, I had somebody I wanted to take the last shot.
Sure.
Okay. But
didn't mean it worked out that way.
Yeah. And then then again, it's like I had a kid tonight, a freshman, Nichelle Jeffries. She played, I think, 16 minutes, 15 minutes, had 21 points. He can shoot the three, can shoot can get to the hole, does a lot of different things. And, so that's what's been successful for us. And the only problem is, like I said, when we started off with Averett, we have a tendency to get off to a little slow start sometimes.
Okay.
And we bury ourselves a little bit, and then it's an uphill battle. If you take the worst loss we had was at the beginning of the year, we lost by 6. Every other game that we've lost, it's either been 4 points or 2 points.
Yep.
And it's one of those that, that's why we talk about we got to get that rebound or that loose ball because it will come back to haunt you.
You've got 5 games left this season before conference play. You'll finish up February 9th, and 4 of them are at home. Right. Meredith, Salem Methodist, and Mary Baldwin. The 5th on the road will be actually the second to last game against Pfeiffer.
Yeah.
And obviously this probably is a dumb question to ask, but how important is home? How important is the Haynes Gymnasium?
Well, if you look over our past since I've been there and as a head coach and as a assistant coach for my cousin Jason, we don't lose too many games at home.
Yeah.
We would have to play pretty bad. It's a great atmosphere. You can put 20 people in our gym, and if you put your hand, cover your eyes up, and they start hollering it, you'll think it's packed. So it's a great place to play. When you walk into our gym and then go to, say, Christopher Newport and go to their gymnasium, stadium, it's like, wait a minute, is this a junior high? Is this a junior high gym? Well, come on, our rims the same height as Christopher Newport.
There you go, 10 feet. Yeah, it's 94 feet long.
That's right. You got it, man. We play. We got kids when they're warming up from the other teams. They'll be dribbling the ball. All of a sudden, there's a dead spot, and they'll call people over. And I said, "Look, watch this," and the ball doesn't bounce real high. And I walk over and I said, we play on the same court you guys are going to play, so it'll be dead for us too.
Yeah, so, except you know how to get around it. They don't.
That's it.
Your players know how to avoid it at all costs and how to trap them into it if you can.
Yeah.
No, I know. Coach, appreciate I was going to say is obviously you want to be home if you can.
Right. No doubt about it.
I appreciate you coming on. The USA South situation is fascinating to begin with, but your team certainly is fascinating to talk about. I'm looking forward to seeing how the season plays out.
Okay.
Good luck the rest of the way. We always have a tradition here on the show, though. We give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, come see us play. It's a fun game to watch us play because we put up a bunch of shots and make the game a little more exciting than just walking the dadgum thing up.
I appreciate that more than you can ever imagine. And a little pace doesn't bore anybody.
No, you got it, buddy.
Randy, thanks so much for taking the time. Enjoy the rest of the season. We'll keep an eye on the Pride, and we'll talk soon.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
Absolutely. Randy Tuggle joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Again, for their next 5 to finish up the season are at home. A little bit weird that they're finishing up February 9th, but this is where we start getting into some quirks. The NESCAC ends early. The USA South ends early. Some others do to start getting into conference tournament action. That includes there, as we mentioned, the USA South Greensboro. Again, in a nail-biter here with Averett, we've got official word that if they were to win out, they will have the tiebreaker over Averett. So things are still a little bit in their court. But One little slip can obviously go the wrong direction. We'll take another break. When we come back, we'll keep up the women's basketball theme here. We'll talk to Staten Island's first-year head coach. They're not doing too shabby this season either, and she is doing pretty well. By the way, her alma mater playing pretty well. We'll talk to her coming up. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we come back.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Directors Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction and knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
To stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here on this Sunday evening. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com, or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. When we talk about women's basketball, you can't ignore the Atlantic region for a lot of reasons. One of them in particular is the fact that some decent basketball has come out of that region over the years, especially in the NJAC. But one team we've certainly had a lot to talk about over the years has been out of the CUNYAC, and it's been Staten Island. Of course, 20-win seasons, near 20-win seasons. Really, if you go 19 or more wins, they've had them 4 of their last 5 years, and they're marching towards another one after the turnaround from the 11-12 season. At the same time, you also have to kind of read between the lines. They started the season on a 3-game winning streak, lost 2 to Misericordia and Mount St. Mary. Of course, Misericordia showing that they're a pretty stout team this year, even though they took their first loss recently. They also played Wagner, so you kind of throw that one out, and then they lost to Hunter. Well, that shouldn't be too surprising because Hunter is the other team in the CUNYAC that they're battling for the conference title. Granted, Hunter's 11-9, so it just adds a ton of questions, which is why we do this show. We try and get some of those questions answered. They've got 5 games left in the regular season, and they certainly would love to do a lot with that. So joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline is Nicole Sarcone, the head coach of the Dolphins of Staten Island, and just because of their mascot, we try and get them on the show. Nicole, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We should point out, first-year head coach. You took over the program just this off-season, and you took on a team that we already knew was pretty good to begin with. Tim Shanahan had done a pretty good job after a couple of 20-win seasons, so that had to be at least the easy part, as it were.
Yeah, I mean, they definitely, Staten Island basketball, I think, is something special, and we do have a lot of Staten Island natives on the roster, and they were very, very successful under Tim, and I think we had a lot to work with on the roster, and we're kind of showing that. We did lose 80% of our scoring with the graduation of some seniors, so that was definitely a concern, but definitely a lot of parts to work with, and I think it's coming together nicely.
We should point out you're in the area. You high school career, I think, was in the area if I remember correctly, at Notre Dame Academy. You also recently coached there, and of course you went to SUNY New Paltz. New Paltz may not be directly in the area, but you haven't gone too far from home necessarily, so you knew this program to a larger degree. Yeah, I definitely knew a little bit about the team and the program. I know Tim for a while, and some of my former high school players, Christina Pastor, Megan McHugh, played at the College of Staten Island, so I definitely was following the program and watching some games and get to see what it's all about. I think it's pretty cool. You step in that gym and you see just all families, friends, former high school teammates, and it's a really awesome environment to be a part of. So I knew what I was getting into, and I was excited for it. So, was that familiarity what attracted you to the job? That the interest of taking over? Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to build a program, and I really do love Staten Island basketball, and it was just kind of the right opportunity at the right time, and it's definitely an attraction. Something I spoke about with some of the administration is the environment you get when you do step in that gym, and it's definitely something special. And I think Staten Island has a lot to offer and has a lot of talent and a lot of great basketball players, and definitely an attraction for this position. Curious, obviously some coaching experience in the high school ranks, and successfully, we should say. It did pretty well in state playoffs and such. How much were you prepared thus to take over this job, and how much are you still kind of trying to get your wheels back on the track? Yeah, a lot of it's a popular question, and I do say a lot. Coaching is coaching, and I know at different levels, there's different challenges and different things you face. But since I've coached starting at the JV level, I've treated all of my programs as a college level program. I think it's only fair to the players to hold them to the highest standard. Definitely, I would say the basketball part I'm loving. It's again one and the same, coaching at different levels, but definitely the administrative stuff and all the other things that come with it is something I'm still getting used to. But the administration and the other coaches in our department have been a huge help. They're unbelievable. So it's an awesome atmosphere to work in, and it definitely helps to have them. Let's talk a little bit about your team. You're led by all four classes, for lack of a better description. Megan McHugh, you're a sophomore, is your leading scorer. Diana Todaro, who is a junior, is second on the team in scoring. Kayla Schmitter, who's a freshman, is third, and Jacqueline Callie, a senior, is fourth, from 7.8 all the way up to McEwen's 14.8 points per game. You got a lot of contributions from everybody, basically. Yeah, we do, and it's nice to have that. Like we said, we lost a lot of scoring with the graduation of some seniors last year, so it was definitely a concern. I would say that a lot of our players on our roster had been more so role players in the teams they've played on, and especially last year with the College of Staten Island team. So it was interesting to see who could step up, but it was also a clean slate for any single one of them to step up and step into that role of being more of an impact player and less of a role player. And I think Meg has done an unbelievable job of that while running the point, which is no easy task. Yeah. And Diana really has gone to work for us. She's doing an unbelievable job. And Kayla Schmitter, too, as a freshman, she's making a lot of waves. She's very talented. She's very fundamentally sound. We got to get her to have a little bit more more strength, more of what Rosa Perron brings to the table. And I think she'll be even better than she's already been for the start. I have a feeling that a freshman needing a little more oomph and a little bit more gusto or whatever you need is not a surprising comment to say. I think all freshmen have to learn that this game's a little bit different than they anticipated. Yeah, and like I said, I think it's a great thing that she's getting to play with post players like Rosa and Diana, and she learns from them in practice, and she holds her own, and she's
she is very talented. I've seen a couple different coaches from programs around the recruiting circuit who have said, they were looking at her too, and I can't take any credit for getting her at the College of Staten Island, but it's very nice to have her on our roster. She's a huge asset.
You're going 8, 9 players deep every game. You've got players like Nicole and Bessie, who's second on the team in assists, who also puts up maybe not a ton of points, but you can tell by looking at the stats, has a defensive mentality to some degree. She's second on the team in assists, second on the team in steals, second both to Megan McHugh. But you go 8, 9 deep, and that's got to be a benefit. You talked about losing all that scoring, but if you're willing to go 9 players deep in almost every single game, you've got contributors who are able to step on the floor anyway.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think that is a huge part of our success this year. Each of them can step up on any given day, and it's a nice comfort to have and to know. We do have a little bit of trouble getting into foul trouble, so we do go a little bit deep, a little bit earlier in games than we would like to, but they all step up and do what they have to do when they get on the floor, and Bessie really deserves a lot of credit because she earned her role, and she, any player on any other team that we play, she's guarding the best player on that team, the highest scorer, the most athletic player. She gets that job done almost every game, and she's been doing a really good job. Like you said, with the assists, getting down the lane, finding her teammates, and she just does a lot of the intangibles that don't show up on the stat sheet, and she's kind of invaluable to our success thus far.
That helps a coach, no matter their first year or 15th or 40th year. You love to have a player like that. The other thing you've had to adjust to is, as much as you've been following Staten Island, you probably had to get a little bit used to the CUNYAC to a larger degree and what you were going to expect in this conference. Hunter seems surprising. They're 11-9, yet they're tied with you guys atop the conference right now. What have you made of what has been the first 2/3, 3/4 of the conference season, and what have you made of teams like Hunter who've already tripped you up?
Yeah, definitely getting to know I didn't know much about the CUNYAC coming in, but like you said it perfectly. I did follow Staten Island, but Hunter I kind of knew. I know John Garrett a little bit, and I knew they'd be a well coached and well prepared team. I knew that they're very talented, and especially in the guard play, and they're veterans as well, and they're well coached. They play hard. I knew Brooklyn would be definitely a challenge, and in our first matchup against them, it came down to the wire. So, I think we have to, there are games we come out a little bit lacking energy a little bit, I guess, and we have to dig ourselves out of a hole, and that hurts sometimes, and against, well-disciplined and well-coached teams like Brooklyn and Hunter, it's way harder to dig yourself out of that hole. So we've been focusing on lately, trying to come out of the gate with the high energy that we need for the whole 40 minutes. And it's definitely something we've had trouble with, but we're working on. And I think with the remainder of the season, that has to be something that happens every single game. There's no room or time left to come out sleeping and have to dig ourselves out of a hole.
We should point out 3 of your last 5 games are going to be on the road. It starts with York coming up, York of New York on the road, then home against Brooklyn, on the road against Hunter, home against Lehman, and then on the road against Baruch. York you beat, we'll say, handily, 28 points earlier in the season. I know that may not mean anything. Brooklyn was a tight battle. We know the result against Hunter. Lehman was an easy 40-point game, and Baruch was middle of the pack, about 21-point game. In other words, 29. You've got a wide range of games coming up. How do you keep everybody focused and not looking too far ahead?
Yeah, to be honest, in our 2 games that we've had recently against CCNY and John Jay, those are 2 of the games I was kind of speaking about just now, where we came out sleeping a little bit. And the teams really, every team right now, it's conference play. It's do or die. They're coming out to battle. Yeah. Everyone's fighting for those spots in the conference tournament, and we can't look past any team. I think maybe some of our girls might have been on that road, and we're trying to make. I think after those 2 games, they now very much know that we can't sleep on anybody. York gave us a game last time. They're very competitive and have a great freshman who's leading probably leading one of the top in the nation in rebounds and blocks. Every team comes out to battle, so to me, it doesn't matter who we're playing or what we've done with them last time. It's a new day, it's a new game, and we have to play our game, and we have to be ready to go to battle because, any given day. So I think after those last 2 games, our girls are a little bit more understanding that we can't sleep on anybody. So.
And realizing that, it makes the question here with that Hunter game being in the middle of this next 5-game stretch, the 3rd game out here. I know you're not looking past what's up next. I know the team isn't, but lurking is a really important game if you want to make sure that the CUNYAC is being handled by you guys.
Yep, absolutely. And it's tough the way that the block is, but you know what it is. We play Brooklyn and Hunter back to back both times around, so that's definitely difficult. I think for us, it's more important to focus on, we'll do our scouts and we'll make sure we know what makes the other team tick. But I think right now we need to make sure we're doing well at what makes us tick and focusing on ourselves, because if we get too far away from that, I think we lose ourselves. And honestly, Hunter is definitely lurking on my mind. I think we need to do a little bit better of a job really knowing the personnel and understanding they killed us in transition last time. We lost their shooters in transition, and they can shoot the ball. And that's something that we had talked about prior to the game, but we didn't execute. So definitely same thing with Brooklyn. They both have a lot of weapons, and we need to make sure we know their personnel going in, and every single player 1 through 14 is ready and understands what their job is once they hit the floor.
Before I let you go, I don't think I ever asked Tim this question. I'm curious, just because of the way New York City is made up, how do you guys travel to games?
How do we travel?
Yeah.
Bus.
You are busing. Okay. Well, I just know that some teams can maybe consider taking the subway. The bus is certainly an option, but you're going to get bogged down in traffic if it's just the wrong timing. So I was just kind of curious in which way you went. So just a random question to appease maybe my little head.
We do take the bus, and I've relied heavily on the other coaches with their help and what time we do need to depart from our campus, because that traffic is could be bad. So,
Coach, 4 o'clock, you'll be fine. 4 o'clock. What do you mean you're not here on time? I told you to. Yeah, I can see some gamesmanship in there maybe. Coach, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. Really appreciate it. We have a tradition on this show. We always give the guest the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on and hearing about our program. I would just say I hope everybody watches our women's and our men's basketball program. I think you'll see a lot of special things going on, and our men's coach, TJ Tibbs, does an unbelievable job with his program as well. So I hope we make a mark and people know who we are off this island.
Well said, and well done sharing the love. Congratulations. I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck, and we'll talk to you sometime down the road.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Nicole Sarcone joining us here from the Atlantic region and thus College of Staten Island Dolphins. Of course, CSI, we can have some fun with that. The Dolphins is always one of my favorite mascots, especially their logo. Outstanding. You saw it there on the graphic. Beautiful logo. Appreciate Nicole joining us. Again, 5 games left. This is another one of those conferences that kind of plays their tournament a little bit earlier than everybody else. On the road at York, home against Brooklyn on February 2nd, which is Super Bowl weekend. Then on the road against Hunter midweek, at home against Lehman the following weekend, and then midweek against Baruch on the road. So an interesting finish there. We'll keep an eye on Staten Island and how the CUNYAC finishes. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll switch gears and go to men's basketball. And, of course, it's Sunday night. That means it's time for the NABC Coaches Corner. It's a little surprise when talking to our next guest to realize I had not had him in the Coaches Corner. That is a mistake on my part. It should have been a no-brainer. Gary Stewart from Stevenson joins us. Coming up next in the NABC Coaches Corner. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we come back.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
Big shots. Teamwork. This trophy is not given. It must be earned. The 2019 NCAA Division III Women's Basketball Championship, March 15th and 16th at the Krager Center in Salem.
Bounces right back with a triple. Great job here. And that'll do it!
Visit ncaa.com/tickets and get your tickets today.
It's on us. It's on all of us. And it's time to act now.
It's on us to start the change. It's on us to be the change. It's on us. It's on Division III. It's on all of us to stop sexual assault.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Carol LaHaye, basketball coach at Randolph-Macon College and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show, and now back to Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here on this Sunday evening. Little tease for you. Top 25 voting information is already out to voters. I've got my pack right here already. I'll be voting primarily tonight, or at least doing the dirty businesses of trying to go through it all. I got this little note already, believe it or not. 5 voters have gotten their ballots in already. And here's the note I can tell you. You can tell people, Augustana and Nebraska Wesleyan are pretty evenly split so far. So to those of you wondering who's going to get first place votes, Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, maybe Whitman or Oshkosh, it's leaning towards Nebraska Wesleyan and Augustana. We'll talk more about that with Bob Quillman coming up a little later in the show. By the way, we're going into overtime tonight, warning you now to all our loyal viewers. We'll talk more about it with Bob in our top 25 double take, and we'll debate who should get that number 1 vote. I have a gut feeling Bob and I have very different opinions on that, but who knows? Maybe one of us will change our minds. Let's switch gears. NABC Coaches Corner, a segment we always have here on Sundays, thanks to the support of the National Association of Basketball Coaches, which has a rich Division III history as well. A number of Division III coaches help run things with the NABC, and I was a little surprised to find that the next guest was one who we've talked to often, but never in this opportunity to talk about that. Charlie Brock from Springfield leads the NABC this year, the board, as president, but one of the others who is high up in that chain of command, as it were, is Stevenson men's basketball coach Gary Stewart. You might know Gary and the work we've done with the Hoopsville Classic in the past. He's certainly a friend of the program, and like I said, can't believe we didn't have him in the Coaches Corner. So joining us now on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline is aforementioned Gary Stewart. And, sir, thanks for taking the time to finally join us in the Coaches Corner.
Dave, how are you?
I'm well, sir. How about yourself?
Doing great, thank you.
Awesome. First and foremost, we should let people know that the NABC is something that is really close to your heart. It is something that, since I've known you, you have been very much involved in, even if you're not listed on something per se. Where did that come from? We'll get to your coaching, tree, as it were. But where did the affection and the need to be involved in the NABC come from for you?
Well, when I first got into coaching, I was fixated on my team and trying to be as good as we possibly can be. And as I got longer into the profession, I started to think about the game and had a little bit bigger thought process in relationship to the impact that I might be able to have in supporting the game and maybe doing something to enhance or make the game better. And I was fortunate enough to be exposed to some people that ran the NABC, and over the years they were able to kind of monitor, as they do all coaches in the country, their involvement and their work, and got selected to be a member of the board.
We'll talk about your involvement in the NABC a little bit more, but let's talk about your history. You're a Division III student athlete. You played at Laverne, then had the honor of coaching that program. Of course, that's one of those for many is on the West Coast and not understood. Give us a little bit of a sense of what attracted you to Laverne and how you ended up becoming their head coach.
Well, it was a terrific opportunity for me. 40 minutes from my place of residence. I grew up in Pasadena, California, and it was first and foremost a teacher's college, and they had a legendary athletic director, a football coach by the name of Roland Ortmeyer, and there isn't a person that ever met him that wasn't captivated by him. Just an unbelievable human being, and I sat down with him during a recruiting visit, and lo and behold, a year later, I'm sitting in his classroom, and I would often tell him that I was going to be the head coach of the University of Laverne one day, and at 24, he was just crazy enough to hire me, and I became the youngest head coach at that time of a four-year university in the United States.
That's impressive. Obviously, you went from there and took over. We're in the SCIAC. I'm going to ask a really crazy question I should know the answer to, but, Gary, I just don't know. How was your timing at Laverne as head coach relate to Popovich's time in the SCIAC as well? Were you around the same time? Was he well ahead of you? I can't remember the timing.
So it was an interesting period there as a coach. At one time, when Mike Dunlap, the current head coach at Loyola Marymount, was in the NBA, there were three people that were connected to that time period that were head coaches: Greg Popovich, Mike Budenholzer, who played for Pop at Bona-Pitzer, and then Mike Dunlap. So all those guys were there during my tenure, and then Pop left, and Charlie Kapstikas came, but terrific coaches. I mean, if you go back there, almost everybody was the all-time winningest coach in the history of their school, and Brian Newhall's still there. Dave Jacobs was at Whittier, and then replaced by his assistant Rock Carter, and it just a wonderful time. Tremendous coaches, and a great way to kind of cut your teeth.
In my personal opinion, you then lost your way. You ended up at UC Davis, who decided to go Division I. I kid because I can. And you had that experience with D1, which I'm sure emboldened that NABC side of things a little bit more. What attracted you to A, come back to Division III, and B, switch sides of the country, sir?
Well, I think basketball is basketball, whether you're at Division II, Division III, or Division I. The student athletes are as passionate about basketball at the Division III levels they are at the other levels. But I long for the relationship that I had with students and colleagues outside of basketball that I was able to forge at Laverne. And I had such a wonderful experience as a student athlete and then as a coach at Division III. In the back of my mind, I often thought that if I ever had an opportunity to coach at that level again, I would jump at it. And the opportunity here at Stevenson presented itself, and very, very fortunate to navigate through a terrific field of applicants. And I was able to get the job, and I wasn't married to a geographical location. I was really open to the opportunity. And so if it were in the Midwest or if it were in the East or South, it didn't really matter to me. It was really about the institution and their mission and their academic prowess and the ability to field a good team. And Stevenson offered all of that, and I jumped at the chance.
We should point out, folks, a little behind-the-scenes dirty secret on Gary. He still misses California, though, because he's got a serious heater in his office to keep himself warm, even on a 50-degree day.
Well, on fair disclosure, Dave, I think I own the only office that doesn't have heat.
That's fair. That's fair.
They really wanted to say if this California guy was for real. So I think
Wait, why ruin a good story by sticking to the truth, Gary?
Right.
So the other thing, again, you stayed involved with the NABC, and what jumped out at me is I found fascinating is, we talk about the All-Star game in Division III, and obviously it was modeled after the Division I version of that. What shocked me when I got to know you was obviously all the D3 guys run the D3 one. They don't have a D1 guy running the All-Star game. At least they haven't until maybe recently. You're running somewhat the D1 All-Star game. A, how did you get lassoed into that? And B, where the heck are the D1 coaches stepping up?
Well, a couple things there, Dave. One, there's a lot of people that have their hand in
yes,
it.
I do realize that.
Yep, I've been fortunate to be involved in that and having an intricate role, and very fortunate that Reggie Minton and Jim Haney and the NABC has trusted me in that position. I think I just kind of stumbled on it and kind of ran with it, and one thing led to another, and I've been involved in it for about 20 years now, and it's been a lot of fun, and we've gone a lot of different ways with it. At one time, we had just one team and played the Harlem Globetrotters for a few years, and then we're back now to having two teams and playing in the same facility that the national championship game for Division I is played in. So a real neat experience. I've got a chance to work with a lot of really, really good people and been exposed to a lot of good things.
I know your assistant coaches certainly love the fact that you are involved because it gets them involved, and that's not a bad perk to have. You're now you're back on the board essentially to some degree with the NABC. You have been a quiet, prod might be the right term, to get D1 and others to focus on the fact that D3 is important too. And I know you're going to probably not speak a lot about it, but I'm curious, what is your push usually to other coaches? And I was shocked to find a coach the other day, Maryland's head coach, who didn't know a lot about Division III until his son got involved. But what is your mission to try and let D1 coaches know more about Division III, and what's the usual response?
Well, we're fortunate that there's so many guys involved and have been involved with college basketball at various levels that got their start at Division I. Jay Wright, that worked at Hobart. He comes on. Phil Martelli was a student athlete at Widener. And I can go on and on.
Yeah.
Bo Ryan at Platteville, and so there are a plethora of guys that have done wonderful work at the Division III level that have gone on to national prominence, and so it's easy for us in some ways to point to those guys as a symbol of what we stand for in our ethics and in our approach to the collegiate game. And I don't think, Dave, really it's just me beating the drum. I think it's a collective effort. Once you see a Division III game and you see the passion, you see the intensity, you see the level of coaching, you see the talented student athletes, it's an easy sell. And it's just about exposing people to the game. And the more that we do that, it's pretty easy for them to see all the values and all the things that we stand for.
I think you're right. We talk about Turgeon at Maryland. I made a little bit of a joke there. He didn't know much about Division III until his son Will, who's now at Catholic as a freshman, got involved in being recruited by Division III. And from everything I can tell, he is now a huge fan of the division. Granted, he's only halfway through his first season with his son. I'd love to teach him a little bit more if I ever got sat next to him. Are you still surprised, though, by how many coaches maybe like Turgeon aren't as familiar with Division III, even though I know their roots don't come through D3, But are you still surprised considering all three divisions make up the NCAA?
No, I think on the contrary, Dave. I think more and more coaches are aware and have an understanding of Division III than ever before. I talk to coaches in the gym all the time, and there are a lot of coaches that get into Division III as a young assistant coach and work their way back to Division I if they were a manager there or a student athlete there, and are looking for opportunities to try to get a head coaching job, and they are now looking at all levels as opposed to just Division I. And then, quite frankly, a lot of those guys come to Division III, and they're only going to be there for a couple years, and they end up liking it, and they like the lifestyle. They like the student athletes that they coach. They believe in the institution that they're at, and they end up staying.
Talking to Gary Stewart here, head coach of the Stevenson Mustangs, who are in the MAC Commonwealth. Coach, I don't want to let you go without having a chance to at least talk about you guys, unfortunately, on a little bit of a slide here. 3 games. I know that's not ideal for you, and 4 of the last 6. You guys came out like gangbusters a little bit, kind of surprised everybody. Tell us a little bit about the unit, what maybe you guys are struggling at, and what do you think you can do in the Commonwealth this season?
Well, we were going pretty good, Dave. I think we were 12-3 at one point.
Yeah.
12-4, yeah. And then we had a situation over a 2-week period that we lost 5 guys to injury, and so that really changed what we were trying to do. We were hanging our hat on our depth, and when that the injuries eroded that, and so that changed some things. And as you well know, Dave, the injuries have an opportunity to make you a better coach, and yet you got to figure that out. You got to figure it out on the fly, and we've done some things. We've adjusted, but we just haven't quite got over the hump there. We've played a couple games where we've had 2 one-possession losses to note, but I'm proud of our guys. They're hanging in there. They're fighting. They're getting back to being a little bit healthier, and I'm excited about what the future might bring here down the road.
For the next 6 games to round out the season are going to be on the road. Those are going to be tough enough. Are you going to be able to get some or all those guys back to maybe give a last bit of a run here before Commonwealth tournament time?
Yeah, we've gotten back who we can get back. There's a thought that we've lost 2 for the year, but we did get 2 back that we were rubbing the rabbit's foot to hang on there and see if we could get some good news, and we did. Our athletic training department and specifically Eva Martinez, our trainer, has been outstanding. Yeah. I mean, they've been wonderful, and so she and our doctors have worked diligently on our young people to get them back, and they've been aggressive, and our kids have responded to that. So we've gotten a couple back here in the last game or 2, and we've got 1 more that hopefully we'll get back sometime this week or next week.
Well, we'll look forward to seeing how the Mustangs maybe gallop back into the race here in the Commonwealth. But we're running out of time, so before we do, we want to at least have a little fun. At the end of the segment, the NABC Coaches Corner, we always ask the same 9 or so questions to the coach to hear different answers from all the coaches we have in this segment over the years. If you don't mind, have a little fun with us. They don't have to be complicated questions, or answers, I should say, but a little bit off the top of your head type stuff.
Okay.
First one, kind of hit on it earlier, but best part of coaching, especially in Division III?
The student athletes. Amazing opportunity to not only try to impact them, Dave, but what they give you. You don't set out for that to happen, but it's a byproduct of that relationship, and I've been really, really blessed over the years to coach some extraordinary kids.
What's your biggest pet peeve as a coach?
Oh, that's a good one. Do the officials follow the show, Dave?
Yes, they do. I found that out in the last few weeks. So I will warn you, but you're welcome to say what you need. You don't have to name anybody if you don't want to.
Well, I guess I should go back to question number one and say that the best part of the game are the officials.
The officials, wonderful.
without question. Dave, I guess it's all inclusive. You know, I love the game. I love being part of it, and there really isn't anything that I can think of that really comes to my mind that it's you'd like to have some more resources. I think from a national perspective that we'd like to get some more money from the NCAA, but I don't think we're alone in that.
Yeah,
I think that's with all divisions.
Yeah, certainly. Is there a rule or a nuance to the game that you just love?
Well, I've got a complex, David. This is a personal one. But,
okay.
But
I'm buckled in.
So I'm the all-time leader in the history of Division III in 3 seconds called as a player, and so now they don't ever call it. And of course, everything that I ever did in Division III as a player has been burned now, so there's really no evidence to go back and tell everybody I was only in there for 2.3 seconds. But the game certainly has evolved that way. You know, it's a different game now, and certainly officiated a little bit differently.
This explains everything. I always wondered why you were always yelling about 3 seconds. Now I get it. I totally understand this now. What rule, and I think I know where this is headed to, any rule that you would like to see changed, removed, or added to the game?
Well, the one rule that I am enjoying is a change, Dave. I know it's not necessarily answering the question, but going from the reset of the shot clock to 20 seconds once the ball's in the front court, and then having just whatever that duration is on the clock to get that over the time over the half court zone. I really like that. I think that's been a good change for the game. I think and again, officials probably disagree when they work my game here, but the extension of the coaching box has been a good thing.
Oh, geez, yeah, you enjoyed blocking my view a few weeks back.
I did.
Yes,
I did.
I know you did it on purpose. There's a couple coaches who have turned and smirked at me over the years. I know they're doing it on purpose. What would if I were to talk to your assistants and ask them about you, what would they want you to change as a coach?
They would probably want us to be a little bit more simplistic.
Okay.
Probably put in one thing and
stick to it.
One out of bounds play, and that would be it. They want to hold the reins back, and
sure.
And so I think that would be it.
That, and they would like you to stop asking the officials about 3 seconds.
Exactly.
What can you say to an official that will get you close, but will not earn you a tech? Gets your point across, but doesn't, goes right to the line. You're toeing the line.
Well, I tell you, the other day, I won't name the game, but I went up to an official and they said that, and he'll remain nameless as well in the story. But I said to him, I said, "You are a really good official, and you're having a horrifically bad day."
Oh, I love I like the follow-up, because I've heard the other version before, but the follow-up is priceless. Really good official having a horrific day. I would love to have see the look on his face. Finally, when you retired...
It would have been interesting if Steve would have said, I feel the same way about the head coach.
I wonder if he can get away with that. That's great.
Yeah, at least I would have felt pretty good about my coaching.
Yeah, well, true.
So,
true.
Not necessarily for that game, but
overall,
my tenure, I would have felt pretty good.
Sure. Finally, when you retire, and all good coaches do, what do you hope people will remember you as a coach?
That I did right by the student athlete. That I gave in my all and was supportive and mentored students and cared about them, genuinely cared about them, and hopefully I was able to broaden their horizons on a myriad of different things, and also enlighten them and maybe have them critically think about some things that aided in the development of their life.
Oh, well said. Great answer. Coach, appreciate you taking the time. Great to have you here in the NABC Coaches Corner. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those who may be tuning in?
Well, one quick thing, Dave.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. It's been great, and I enjoyed visiting with you as always. And the one thing I would say, just kind of a theme of the conversation, relationship to Division III and how exciting basketball is. This is shaping up to be a wonderful, wonderful postseason. I mean, there are a plethora of teams that, depending on seedings and where they're playing and who they're playing, they could get to Fort Wayne, and so it's going to be really, really exciting. So I would hope that we would get a few new folks that are watching the national scope. Because it's going to be good tournament with outstanding coaches and terrific student athletes as always.
Yeah, agree with you, and looking forward to it myself, while at the same time maybe pulling my hair out. But looking forward to it all the same. Gary, thanks so much for taking the time to join us here. Appreciate the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Dave.
Absolutely. Gary Stewart joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville Hotline, part of the NABC Coaches Corner. Of course, all interviews on the Hoopsville Hotline are courtesy of our partners at Blue Frame Technology and their industry-leading production truck software. Is your college ready to showcase its teams who are reliable and innovative video streaming service that won't break your budget? Blue Frame's advanced digital broadcast tools will help make your broadcast to the next level. Learn more today at visiting www.blueframetech.com. That's www.blueframetech.com. I'm certainly a fan of Blue Frame Technology. Glad to have them on board with us here at Hoopsville, and look forward to growing that partnership in the near future. We're running a little bit behind, so we're going to get going here. Coming next, we'll jump up to the Northeast, stick with men's basketball. We'll talk to Gordon men's basketball. Todd Murphy joins us to talk about his squad and just how good they really are this season in what is a fascinating Triple C battle. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we come back.
I learned a lot of valuable lessons playing college football. I never thought about the health benefits of exercise until I actually started to talk to coaches in college. It's not only just for performance, it's for life. My coaches instilled the importance of well-being, not only building up strength, mental health, getting enough sleep, eating properly is all what it is to be healthy. I decided that I want to go on a personal trainer and share my knowledge that I obtained in college about physical and mental well-being.
UW-Eau Claire and Mayo Clinic Health System are creating amazing opportunities for students from across the Midwest. Our collaborative research agreement allows students to work with world-renowned physicians and scientists. And with more than 80 majors, UW-Eau Claire is the perfect fit for those who dream big and are ready to change the world.
I used to never really talk, ever. I was afraid if I said something wrong, everyone would laugh at me. But then I started to play golf with Special Olympics. It helped me to find my voice. And now everyone else is speechless.
Great moments are born from great opportunity. That's what you have here tonight. That's what you've earned here tonight. This is your time. Now go out there and take it.
College basketball lives in Kansas City at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center. The College Basketball Experience is the place to get your game on. It's not a museum, it's an experience you won't forget. Discover the history of the game in the National Collegiate Basketball Hall of Fame, featuring the Gallery of Honor, Mentor Circle, and Honor Theater. Suit up in the latest CBE logoed Nike gear at the CBE Hoop Shop. Elevate your game today and visit the house that college basketball built.
And welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. Hope you're enjoying this show on Sunday. If you're want to interact with us, don't forget you can join us on Facebook at facebook.com/Hoopsville, where we're live simulcasting the show. You can also tweet us at D3Hoopsville or use the hashtag Hoopsville, or join us in the chat rooms either on that Facebook Live simulcast via Periscope. You can reply. You can also do it on our YouTube page. There's several who do that. Of course, you can email us. We've changed the email temporarily because for some reason the Hoopsville at D3Hoops.com one doesn't seem to be working for everybody. So Dave.McHugh at D3Sports.com. Use that smartly, and we will try and answer some of your questions. We were talking about the Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, top Whitman, whoever vote scenario for who will get first place. 6 ballots are in, and now 3 teams are getting first place votes: Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, and Whitman. I told you, it's not as cut and dry as it looks. Nothing against Oshkosh. I suspect they'll get some votes too, but we'll see how this all plays out. But it's going to be interesting, and don't forget Bob Quillman joining us a little bit later in the program to give his take on things as well. Let's jump up into the Northeast region. As we do on Sundays, we talk Northeast, Atlantic, South, and Central regions primarily. And in the Northeast, if you're not watching the race in the Commonwealth Coast Conference, you're missing something. It's been a fascinating race, a little bit of a doozy. At 17-2 and 9-1 in the conference, the team that is battling Nichols for that first place is Gordon. They have a win over Nichols, though unfortunately they also have a loss to Western New England. They've got Nichols coming up later in the season, but they've got a little bit of a run to get through before they can get there. Gordon has been one of those programs that has just been lurking. Last year, remember, 18-9, 13-5 in the conference. They haven't had tremendous records, but you can go back to 2013 and remember they went 21-7. They're in a conference that sometimes just doesn't get a lot of attention. Well, we're getting attention now, and joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of the Fighting Scots. Apparently our graphic not working. We'll get it going here in a minute. It is Todd Murphy. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time to join us.
Well, it's absolutely my pleasure, Dave. This is an opportunity that hasn't come along, so it's a great opportunity, and I appreciate it.
Well, like I said, we appreciate you taking the time. That's the most opportune. Yeah, I saw something earlier today that kind of reminded me, for some whatever darn reason, we haven't gotten you guys on this show. Forgive us. We'll start there. First off. But second of all, you guys have had an interesting season. You started off with an easy win over Emerson, got tripped up against Ramapo in a neutral site game, got back onto the win streak, and I think you just kind of fell under everybody's radar for a while there. Played a bunch of New England teams, arguably no one that jumps off at anybody, but then you got past Nichols, and then all of a sudden, boom, Gordon's on everybody's spotlight. What's the season been like from your point of view?
Well, it's been an interesting one for sure. I know that, we haven't played necessarily the toughest schedule, this season, but at the same time, we did add Colby, a NESCAC school. I know they're kind of mid-level, but, and we played Salem State every single year, and, this year, unfortunately, they're a little bit down, even though they still might win their conference. Emerson has beaten a couple of very good teams this year. Johnson and Wales is a little bit down, but to be honest with you, this is a little bit stronger schedule than we've had in the past. But interestingly enough, we've never had a great non-league record, and I take myself to blame for that because I'm always telling my guys, we're a mid-major conference. We're not going to make the NCAA tournament as an at-large team. So I want to be peaking at the end of the year, in middle of February, late February, and see if we can make a run at the conference tournament championship. So that's always been our goal, and I don't get overly concerned about the early losses as long as we're trying to get better every single day.
Certainly makes some sense, especially for a lot of Division III schools. You got to have to make your argument near the end of the season versus the entire length of the season. So it makes sense to me. The win over Nichols obviously was huge. You guys got them 76-72 at their place, which I think was the most important part of this. We'll talk about what's coming up next, but it begs the question, then what happened against Western New England?
I wish I knew, Dave. I'll tell you
Okay.
what. We have had trouble at Western New England since I've been here at Gordon. They beat us by 19 at their place last year, and I don't know what the deal is and why our guys don't fire out against them like they did against Nichols and Endicott. But, you know, it was a good wake-up call, though. I think we realized that, you know, if we don't come to play every single night, in particular on the road, that, you know, we could take a beating. So, you know, hopefully it humbled us and made us think about how much harder we still need to work for the rest of the season.
Yeah, it certainly is one to quote-unquote humble. What's interesting is you got and lost kind of top 25 attention as a result of that. I'll admit I was voting for you guys at one point, then kind of dropped that decision. I realize that the top 25 notoriety helps you guys in the sense of, hey, yeah, we do exist, or, you know, hey, it's great for our team to get that kind of recognition. But I hear this from coaches, and I'm kind of curious your take. Did it really mean anything to you?
To me personally, not even a little bit.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's nice for our school, and I think it's really great for our players to get that sort of recognition when we're playing at a pretty high level. But for me, I've got a lot higher priorities than trying to crack the top 25. So,
and that's why I asked that. I had this feeling that sometimes fans make more of a deal of it, or others do, than the team does.
Absolutely. And you know, I'm going to be honest with you, Dave. I don't know whether this is a good thing or not, but I really don't even pay attention to the conference records. I know that we've beaten everyone in the conference, and we've only lost one game, so that means we can't be any worse than tied for first. But I have no idea of who exactly is around us. Obviously, I would guess Nichols probably hasn't lost any other games, but you know, Endicott, Roger Williams, they're very good. So I just don't care, because as long as I said we're improving every single day, we're getting better. The wins and losses, they'll put us into the position in the conference. I've never seen a team that finished second in the conference get seeded fourth in the conference tournament. So, you know, we're going to finish where we finish, and we're going to have to win 3 games to get to the NCAA tournament anyway. So it just doesn't matter.
Yeah, we should point out you're a half game back on Nichols. You're game and a half up on Roger Williams, and you're 3 up on Endicott. So in that case, do you not discuss it with the team? Like, listen, guys, we need to get X, Y, and Z accomplished because we want to have a home game, or we want to stay in the second hole or in the one hole, or whatever the case may be? Or is it just not a conversation in the locker room?
It's not a conversation at all. You know, I've never, ever had a what we would call as a must-win game. The only absolutes that we have in our locker room are you must play hard, you must play unselfishly, and you must have a great attitude. And you know, if we do those things, the scoreboard will take care of itself. I put the onus of winning on myself and my assistant coach, because we've got to go out and find talented players, and then we have to develop those players. So, you know, I don't know too many players that go into a game looking to try and miss a jump shot or miss a box out and that sort of thing. But if we do everything to try and just do our very best each and every night to get better each and every day, the wins and losses will take care of themselves. And so, no, we never even look at the standings.
Let's talk about your team real quick, because they certainly are the ones that have gotten us into this conversation. You're led by Eric Demers at 20-plus points a game. You've got Garrison Duvivier. See, that sounded so much nicer than my effort. Double average at 17 points a game, nearly 13 rebounds a game. He also is a team-high 3.6 assists a game. And then another guy in double figures is Noah. I'm going to let you go for it.
Yeah, Salaji.
Oh, that's so much easier than it's spelled. Salaji.
Yes.
And then you got the all-name team here, Coach. Parker Omslar at 9.9 and Jake Haar at 9.5. Obviously, that core group of 5, who, by the way, are also your starting 5 for every single game this season, is your clique. It's the group that obviously makes the heart go for this team. There's certainly other players who contribute. You go deep on your bench, but it's that 5, obviously, that determines how the Fighting Scots are going to play every night.
Absolutely. You know, and Eric and Garrison have been our top 2 guys for the last 4 years. Eric did miss 1 year with an injury, but they're very unique Division III players because they're, so talented. Eric is a very talented scorer who's actually given up quite a bit this year because I've got him playing point guard. And then Garrison might be the most intelligent basketball player I've ever coached. So, and I think that's pointed out by his 3-point, leading us in assists at 3.6.
Yeah.
I think he's also leading the conference in block shots, and he's only 6'6". He's also in the top 10, I believe, in steals. So,
wow.
He's a unique individual and a wonderful player. And but then, you can't win ball games with just two players.
Right.
Noah's done a great job and shooting at an unbelievable clip so far. And, our big 6'11" sophomore has been playing very well, Parker. And to be honest with you, Jake Harr has struggled this year. 2 years ago he led the country in three-point shooting.
Oh, right.
And this year he's only around 33 or 34. So if he ever gets that shot back, we're going to be a very dangerous team late in the season.
You're also a good free throw shooting team. Demers is over 82%. Noah's at 94%. Harr is at 91%. David Massillon, who plays a lot of games, is at 89%. Yeah, you don't have everybody who's perfect, but you average out about 72%. So you're going to hurt teams in a lot of different places.
Yes, we are. And to be honest with you, one of the things that's kind of helped us this year, I went to a zone defense because Parker is 6'11", and Garrison is 6'6", and a little bit, not the most athletic guy. And in order to be able to put both of those guys on the court at the same time, we went to a zone. And I thought it was an advantage to be able to have those five guys on, but the one thing I didn't really think about is we're not fouling nearly as much as we've done in the past, and we're actually outscoring opponents by, I want to say, close to 10 points a game at the free throw line.
Wow.
So, I think that's been a huge contributing factor to our success this year, but, we do knock down free throws, in particular our shooters. Garrison and Parker, who are our big men, they shoot them at a mid-60s clip, I think, so not too embarrassing. But free throws have played a big part in our success this year.
Before we let you go, I wanted to talk a little bit about your background. We just had Gary Stewart on from Stevenson. I'm getting all my schools that I've worked with confused. From Stevenson, he played at UC Davis, or coached at UC Davis. He had played at Laverne and coached at Laverne. We should point out you played at UC Irvine, ended up having a little bit of a pro career, if no one paid attention, in the NBA, playing with the Clippers, the Rockets, the Pistons. You also got into coaching quite a bit, including at UC Irvine. My first question is, did you get lost somehow in New England and just found yourself at Gordon? And second of all, we asked Gary the same thing. He flipped coach sides of the coasts as well. But the follow-up with that would then be, what have you learned from that D1 and professional career that you were able to utilize or adjust in the Division III world?
Well, to answer your first question, no, I didn't get lost. Although, to be honest with you, I just wanted to be a head coach. And the job opening at Gordon was very late because Mike Schauer had gotten the job at Wheaton. And so it opened up pretty late. And I just threw my name in for the heck of it. To be honest with you, didn't know the first thing about Gordon. They called me back and said, hey, you're one of the 8 that we want to interview on the phone. I said, well, I better do a little homework and figure out what school I just applied to.
Smart.
Oh, yeah. And, to be honest with you, I did know it was a Christian college, and that was very important to me. And so, I don't want to sound too corny, but I certainly feel like God played a big part in my move across the country. And then having a wonderful, loving wife and 3 kids who didn't know any better, we made the move to New England. But, with regards to my background, to be honest with you, I think it hurt me a little bit early on because my expectations, I didn't understand at the Division III level why guys didn't want to live in the gym and didn't want to, do everything possible to win a game and that sort of thing. And I inherited a great team, but, I think my expectations were almost a little bit too high. So I've, kind of brought them back to what a Division III looks like. In particular, at a good academic school like Gordon, a Christian school where, you know, the priority is hopefully on God as well, that, you know, and they're paying their own way. So their studies are extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're not getting a whole lot of redshirt candidates because they want to get out of here in 4 years because they're paying the bills. So,
right.
But it certainly has helped me, I think, mostly in my preparation for games, because at the D1 level and at the professional level, you watch so much film, and you know, you're having to scout opponents. And, you know, I think my assistant coaches and I have done a pretty good job of preparing our teams for games, you know, and, you know, trying to figure out, it's almost like a chess game where you try to figure out strategies of how to limit one kid and try to force them to beat you in a way that they don't ordinarily beat teams. And it's I love that sort of competitiveness about it, and I am very, very competitive. So, you know, I do pass that along to my team, I think, as much as possible.
By the way, I skipped over the fact you played for the Timberwolves as well in '89, winning the Defensive Player of the Year award and leading the NBA in fewest turnovers per minute. I skipped right over that one. Coach, appreciate taking the time. I would love to have a bigger conversation with you sometime down the road, and we'll find a way to do it. But I appreciate the time you took this evening. As always, we give the guests the final word. Any final thoughts you want to share with those maybe tuning in?
Well, I wish I had known you were going to say that, because I have no idea. I've got nothing prepared.
It's all good.
But Dave, I do appreciate this opportunity, and you know, to be able to give Gordon even the slightest little bit of recognition, I think it's wonderful. I think, you know, we've been pretty successful here over my 10 years here, and this is a fun season, and getting to compete against Nichols and the teams, Endicott, and those teams in our conference. It's just a great opportunity. So I'm happy that you gave me this opportunity tonight.
Well, I appreciate you coming on and helping us do it. Good luck the rest of the season. We'll look forward to having you on the show another time.
That sounds great, Dave. Thank you so much.
You too. Take care. Todd Murphy joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. Fascinating background. We got a few of those. Emerson also has a similar background in coaching at a higher level and coming down to Division III, but appreciate Todd coming on the show. Can't believe we haven't had him on the show earlier. By the way, former SID of his joke that they used to drive him nuts by posting the standings in the offices just as a little play. That's pretty funny. They've got 6 games up ahead. They're home against Wentworth coming up Wednesday. Then they're on the road at Roger Williams next weekend. Curry, Salve Regina, Nichols, and Endicott to come. Nichols and Endicott, those last two will be the biggest games we'll watch. We'll keep an eye on the 17-2 Fighting Scots. We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll jump out to Chicagoland. And joining us will be U Chicago men's basketball coach Mike McGrath. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. More Hoopsville when we get back.
Football has taught me a lot throughout my life. It's definitely had a huge imprint on who I am as a person. Competing at a Division III level created that opportunity for me to go to college. Not only was I the first one in my family to graduate college, but I was really the first one to even go. Being the first one, I'm breaking that cycle, and now that I've graduated, I'm not sure what's the next step, but I know I have a lot of doors open. And a lot of those are open because I played football and ran track here at Otterbein.
For the love of the game, but for those of us who are Division III student athletes, it's more than that, a lot more.
Sure, the game is important, but as we work so hard to build both mind and body, it's more about team.
That is why NCAA Division III teamed up with Special Olympics, and in giving the gift of sport to those for whom it seemed an impossible dream, we are working to make this a better world.
Help us keep that dream alive.
You can make a difference.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and I know how powerful words can be. The term gay doesn't mean stupid, lame, or less than.
So I pledge to speak up if I hear the term gay used in a derogatory way or any other homophobic terms.
If you can play in Division III.
I'm a Division III student athlete, and my teammates unconditionally accepted me as part of their family. So now I pledge to do the same for others. If you can play in Division III.
We are the coaches of women's basketball. We are leaders and teachers, dreamers and winners. We are professionals who conduct ourselves ethically and with integrity. We place the education, safety, and well-being of the athletes we coach above all else and teach them the fundamental values they need to succeed in life. We are coaches united for the good of our game and those who play it. We are the WBCA.
Welcome back to Hoopsville. I'm Amy Reed, head coach at RIT and a member of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We hope you enjoy the show. Now back to Dave.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody, here on this Sunday evening. If you got questions for us, we're going to be running a little bit into overtime. Make sure you tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us hoopsville at D3Hoops.com or join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville. We're also streaming on Periscope. I know you can fire back questions to us that way as well. We'll do our best to stay in touch with your questions and answer them the best way we can. Dan asked about a Hoopsville fundraiser. You know, we haven't actually gotten one going, Dan, but we may do it before the marathon show, which is coming up on Thursday. That marathon show, though, a little truncated. We're going to do about 8 hours this year instead of 12, starting at about 12 o'clock Eastern time. Though stay tuned really on Monday for more information about all of that. All right, so we haven't really talked about the UAA a lot this season, and there's a mixture of reasons we haven't. One, because there hasn't Rochester has stood out. Emory has had its moments. Chicago certainly has. But it's also been a crazy race, to be blunt. There is a three-way race right now at first place. Emory, WashU, and Chicago at 5-2, all in the conference, with Rochester and Brandeis right behind them at 4-3. It has been crazy. The UAA always is crazy. It's about darn time we talked a little bit more about it. And so joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline is the head coach of the Maroons of U Chicago. It is our good friend, Mike McGrath. And, Coach, thanks for taking the time, as always.
My pleasure, David. Hope you're well.
I'm doing well. Thanks for joining us. I know it wasn't the best of weekends for you guys. You kind of had a big bang to start conference play with wins over WashU, Rochester, and Emory on back-to-back weekends. But the UAA is the UAA, and last week a loss to Brandeis before a win against NYU. This week a loss to Case Western before a reserve before a win against Carnegie Mellon. That feels very UAA-ish. It doesn't really matter how good or bad a team is.
Yeah, it's a really good league, and it's funny. People talk all the time about winning on the road on Sundays in our league, and how the noon games on Sundays is a challenge. And every game's a challenge. We lost 2 on Fridays, and one in a great overtime battle, and a game on this Friday that went down to one possession against a Case team that's every night anything can happen, and it's an interesting year in the league, David. Not just in terms of the caliber of the competition, but we've got 3 new head coaches in the league this year, and that's thrown a new wrench into things, and really made it a little more interesting than even most years, I think. Sure,
I think you and I talked a little bit in the off season, just kind of in passing. You rose on the totem pole very quickly into more of a senior level in terms of tenure, because you had retirement at WashU, retirement at NYU, an unfortunate change at Brandeis, but it kind of shook up the conference a lot.
Yeah, this is my 20th year as a head coach in the UAA, and from the time I took over in 1999 until this year, we had a grand total of 5 coaching changes in the league. And then this year we had 3 alone. They're great jobs. They're great places. We can all have a lot of success in our schools, and they're destination-type places, and that's the way they've always been treated. And, so this year, as you're looking at Brandeis and you're looking at NYU and as you're looking at WashU, it was different preparing for those teams, and new coaches came in and had a lot of enthusiasm, and they're doing some great things at those places. And I think that's made it even more interesting. And Todd's relatively new there at Case. I think this is his 3rd year. Right. So and he's brought in some of his own players and guys who fit the way he wants to play. And, I think that transition combined with just really good basketball has made it kind of a very interesting first half of the UAA race.
What's also probably interesting, too, is you, to some degree, got very used to what coaches are doing in your league, and now you're kind of having to adjust to maybe not knowing, but just not really positive what they're going to be doing to you.
Well, very much so. I mean, preparing for Wash, we play WashU the first game of the year, so it's the 1 week where we don't have 2 games.
Right.
And it's over break, so we tend to have a lot of time to get ready. And, preparing for Mark's teams for 27 years, I've been in Chicago. And then Pat this year, it was like, getting ready to play football versus getting ready to play soccer. I mean, it couldn't have been any more different. And it was fun. And I joked. I finally think I figured out how to guard Mark's offense, and he left. But he would have changed it and made it harder on me.
Sure.
But you know how it is. I mean, it's challenging to kind of figure out, not just what people are doing, but kind of how they're wired. And I think I had a pretty good idea of Mark and Joe and Brian and how they wanted their teams to play and what they wanted to go to and what their strengths were. And because that affects the flow of preparation and things like that too. And that's been a big change this year.
Sure. Nobody's jumping out in this conference. Rochester, I think, maybe was flying a little high after a pretty solid season last year. Emory and Henry, I think a lot of people are trying to figure out. Obviously, we knew the coaching changes at 3 of the other schools. Nothing against Case Western Reserve and Carnegie Mellon, but they haven't been at the top of the conversation too much recently. And then it was you guys. I just felt this year that it was hard to pin down the UAA, and now there's a 3-horse race for first place. I feel I'm even more confused. Is this what you guys expected? Did you expect it to be this competitive? Well, it's always competitive, but I mean this much of a jumble?
Very much so. Very much so. I think Wash, Wash has some very good talent. They have some. They lost a lot of experience last year, but we knew they had some pieces kind of in the pipeline and some very good players. I felt like, as I saw them early in non-conference games, each game I felt like they were getting better. I felt like they were getting a feel for Pat and how he wanted to play and what they were doing, and I think they're going to continue to keep getting better. Emory has an incredible amount of young talent. They have some very, very good players. They play a very unique style, but they too lost 4 guys who were pretty significant leaders and contributors and on some very good teams. And when you have 2 teams who have that kind of transition, you never know how that's going to impact things. Luke does an unbelievably good job at Rochester, and they're very efficient and great at what they run and how they do things. And they have a very, very experienced team. And, you knew kind of they were going to be in the mix. And then, I really like the team that Tony has coming back. They didn't play well today, but they were injured early at Carnegie Mellon. And then, seeing how Todd's kind of slowly brought things along into the way he wants to do things. I mean, yeah, and then obviously not knowing what was going to be the situation at NYU or Brandeis, but knowing they had some pieces there, I'm not surprised at all. I'm a little disappointed after the start we had that we don't have a little bit more of a cushion.
Sure.
But we're pretty happy where we're at.
I was going to say, you took on, the 3 heavyweights there to start and got 3 wins. You're kind of in the catbird seat to some degree. Last question about the conference, and I'm going to dive into your team. Brandeis, having a pretty decent season. I get the sense that maybe the conference and coaches and such are probably pretty thrilled with how that has come about after coming out of what was pretty dark times in the offseason.
Yeah, I really don't know a whole lot about what the offseason was.
Sure.
Stuff that's written and stuff that's said. I never. Right. You're in the media. I'm in the basketball world. We never know what to make of any of that. But Brian did a really good job. They were a hard team to play. And they had good players. And I felt last year Brandeis had some young freshmen who, when I watched Brandeis last year, I said, those are the kind of guys that they had a lot of success with over the years. And they had some good, solid upperclassmen, some good players. And, I didn't know Gene at all. I'd met him a couple times. And so you knew there were some pieces there, maybe even more so than had been the past couple of years there. And, if they rallied around each other and rallied around a new coach, there was no doubt that they were going to be dangerous. Watching them play, preparing for them, couldn't be more impressed with the job that he's doing and the way he's got those guys playing and kind of pulling for each other and the spirit that they have going there. And sometimes out of down moments come some really big highs, and I think that's part of it also. And I should add, and this, and we talk about this all the time, and the coaches in the league, with such a huge turnover, we the five of us that are returning, I don't think could be any more excited than, having Pat and having Gene and having Dakin in the league.
Sure.
With the way our league operates, it's really important that we have a collegial relationship with our fellow head coaches and that we have a certain kind of atmosphere. And, Mark Edwards and Mike Neer and Pat Cunningham and Joe Nesci and Bill Sudek and Tony for a long time, guys like that set that tone. And we want to continue that. Guys like Jason and I and Luke and some of the guys who are, kind of now moving into a little more tenured time in the league, we wanted to sustain that. And we're really excited about, having those guys in the league. And, at some point you kind of hope they would all hire a bad coach, but I knew that wasn't going to happen.
Sure.
So we got really good guys, and that's it's going to make the league fun.
Yeah, definitely camaraderie in the UAA that comes with the nature of the conference, and you're right. It's some fascinating hires, to say the least. Let's talk about your team. What jumps out at me about them is you've got 4 seniors on this team, but they're not necessarily statistically the leaders on this squad. Noah Karras is 3rd on the team in scoring as one of those seniors, but it's underclassmen in Jordan Baum and Dominic Lavier and Cole Schmidt that are 3 of the 4 leading scorers. You've got a nice mix, and we talked about it earlier in the show, of not only that leadership, but some of that youthful drive, as it were.
Well, and when you talk about scoring leaders and you talk about leaders, you're talking about 2 different things. We have one of the great things about our team this year, and they've been so fun to coach. They just, every year we ask our team and our leaders to kind of pick a word that they want to think about throughout the year, and they kind of want to have as a theme. And this year, seniors chose the word resilient. And it's really been prominent in our group this year. We've bounced back and during games, after games, from the first half to the second half. The guys have kept battling. They've really been fun to coach. And, from a statistical standpoint, you look at a guy like Ryan Jacobson, you look at Max Jacobs, they don't score maybe the same way as some other guys do, but they have their talents that they bring to the team, and they're clearly leaders. Noah knocks in some shots for us, but he's also doing what Ryan and Max do as a leader. And Justin Jackson's really had a tough year. I think he was kind of ready, and we've seen flashes this year where he was kind of ready to kind of have a breakout year. And he's had 3 different injuries this year. He had a concussion, he had a sprained ankle, had a sprained foot, and, it's just not – he had a big game today, in a short period of time. Carnegie scored some points, but he would probably be more like putting up some of the points the way Dom and Cole are had he not had some of the injuries that he's had. But it's a great senior class. It's a great group of guys. They, along with Jordan, who started last year as our point guard, bring some great leadership characteristics to the table. And the other guys have just kind of followed along and just worked really hard.
Well, another thing that jumps out at me is you're always going 8 deep. You tend to go 9 deep, and in 2/3 of your game, you're going 10, 11 guys deep. You got a lot of abilities and doors you can open and close and little levers you can pull and push and whatever you need to do to make this team sing a little bit. That can be beneficial when you get a little further into the season.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for that. We've had, as you mentioned, 11 different guys probably really make significant contributions to help us win games, making plays during the course of the game to help us win games at different times. And some of that has been matchups. Some of that has been injuries. Some of those times when we're 8 and 9 versus 10 and 11, it's because a guy's been down for a game. I'm still, what has me most excited about this group, they've been so much fun to coach so far, but what has me most excited about this group is we've been successful to the extent that we've been successful this year because we've had different guys step up and make plays at different times. And, if we can ever really get firing on all cylinders, I think we have another level we can get to.
the last real challenge you're going to have to face this season is the fact that now we turn into the second half of the UAA schedule, and you're going to amazingly have to do it on the road. Your next 4 are on the road: Case Western Reserve, Carnegie Mellon, Rochester Emory. You're home against Brandeis, NYU, and then on the road against WashU. It's a bit about keeping the guys fresh and focused, I assume.
Yeah, I mean, it's a grind. The travel is so much fun, and it's so enjoyable, and the guys have such a special experience. But, we had 3 new assistants helping out this year, and they came back from the first trip, and they were like, whoa, that takes a lot out of you. And it does. And we had a nice schedule to start, but we also, I feel like, did a pretty good job against that schedule.
Yeah, you did.
When you open up at home against kind of the 3 favorites in the league and you get all of them, you feel pretty good about it. The road is going to be challenging. And it's funny, I think Q is coming on later, and I always laugh at the Titan Q formula of like winning all your games at home and then how many you win on the road. And he's always got this 1 up, 1 down kind of metric. And I've always kind of looked at it over the years because it makes a lot of sense. And then I find out most of the time the team that wins our league doesn't really follow that metric. The teams that win leagues typically have one thing in common, and that's they win games.
Yeah.
And, we've got 3, we've got 5, we've won 5 of the first 7 and 3 of them against, the other teams that have been really in the mix. And the other team that's really in the mix, Brandeis, we dropped on the road in overtime. I mean, we feel pretty good about what we've done. They were at home, but we've got wins against those teams. And, I joke about it, like worst case scenario, we own the tiebreaker right now with anybody that we beat out of that group.
True.
So
True. That's true.
Let's see what happens right now. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And I'm excited about coaching this group through a 7-game conference tournament.
Yeah.
And, we'll see what happens.
Well, I appreciate the time. I can tell you're excited. It's fun to chat with you as always. Real quick before we let you go, though, obviously the Final Four heading off to Fort Wayne. You're so heavily involved with that. Though I've gathered, too, you're looking forward to that experience as well this season.
Yeah, the Fort Wayne change and working on the All-Star game. For the 20 years I've been a head coach, I've gone down to Salem, and, Pat Cunningham got me starting to do that, and Bill Fenlon and Jim Shaw and that group of friends of mine that had gone down there for so many years. And, we're going to miss Kerry Harvey Cutter, and we're going to miss the people of Salem. But at the same time, change is good.
Yeah.
And Fort Wayne, Fort Wayne's done a great job with everything that we've been associated with. We went and visited the facility in the spring, and the people there are excited. The arena's terrific. Change can be a positive thing, and I expect it to be in this situation. As the people who work on the All-Star game and work around the championship a little bit, we're excited to kind of collaborate with the NCAA and the people of Fort Wayne and the NABC and see if the championship can't kind of reach a new level. I think we're going to, one of the things I'm really excited about is I think we're going to attract some people just out of curiosity who haven't been before, because it might just be a little bit easier. And, if hopefully they have as great an experience as I had the first time I went down to Salem, and they want to keep coming back.
Yeah, well said. Well, I look forward to seeing you in, about 6 weeks' time or something like that. I can't believe
it's going to fly.
Yeah, you're right. It totally is. But I appreciate the time. As always, give the coach the final word. Any final thoughts for those who may be tuning in?
No, I think, for the people who are fans of Division III basketball, it'll be a great 6 weeks here coming up to the end of the year. And, I've seen some of the better teams in the country, and I think there's some really good basketball teams out there. And I think we're both in the UAA and across the country. It's going to be a lot of fun here over the last several weeks, and I think we're setting up for a really amazing national championship and tournament.
Well said. We'll look forward to talking to you down the road. Take care of yourself. Safe travels on this UAA schedule, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for all you do, David. I appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Take care. Mike McGrath joining us from Chicago on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline. For some reason, that graphic not popping up today either. Apparently, the more graphics I make, the less it likes to work. Anyway, we're still on the air. That's all that matters tonight. Thanks Coach for taking the time to join us. We're going to take a break. We're into overtime. We got to get going here because we don't want to go too far tonight. But we still have the top 25 double take, and Mike mentioned Titan Q. Bob Quillman will join us here in a moment. I know he's been tuned in. We'll talk to him about that. He's filling in for Ryan tonight. We'll talk about a debatable team, and we'll buy and sell some teams as well. You're listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. Back with more when we get back.
Being a part of the different activities and organizations that I've been a part of, I'm actually able to see myself where I'm like, hey, I actually can make a change. I'm one person that can make a difference.
Division III has helped me to develop teamwork skills, critical thinking skills, time management skills.
It's not just about basketball, or it's not just about school, it's about developing yourself as a person altogether.
Welcome to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire, home of Blue Gold Athletics. UW-Eau Claire has been ranked a top 5 regional public university for over 20 years. We graduate champions with the lowest debt and highest return on investment in the Midwest. Blue Gold Athletics is a Director's Cup Top 20 Division III program offering 22 sports with almost 700 student athletes. UW-Eau Claire is about excellence in the classroom, the field of competition, and the community. Are you the next Blue Gold?
My name is Marcus Walker. I was All-State, won a state championship, a high school All-American, and played college and pro ball. I played because I love the game. I grind to be the best. I sweat because I put in work. I'm strong because I believe. When I want to bring it before game time, I come to the house that college basketball built, the CBE. No matter your skill, take it to another level. Elevate your game right here at the College Basketball Experience at Sprint Center.
I coined my definition of success in 1934. My definition of success is peace of mind attained only through self-satisfaction in knowing you made the effort to do the best of which you're capable. It's like reputation and character. Reputation is what others perceive you to be. Character is what you are.
It's on us to stop sexual assault
in any way that we can.
To get a friend home safe.
To never blame the victim.
It's on us.
to stand up.
To make our community safe for all. It's on us.
It's on us to look out for each other at parties.
It's on us.
To be more than just a bystander.
To step up and say something.
It's on us, all of us.
To stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back to Hoopsville, everybody. On this Sunday evening, we are into overtime because smart guy here went and booked one extra guest tonight without paying attention to what he was doing. But we've had some wonderful guests, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you got questions for us, tweet us at D3Hoopsville or hashtag Hoopsville. Email us, hoopsville at D3Hoops.com. Join us on Facebook at Facebook.com/Hoopsville, where a guy named LeBron James apparently is on our Twitter or our YouTube, but I'm pretty sure it's not. LeBron James. You can email us also, dave.mchugh at d3sports.com. Dave.mchugh at d3sports.com. The Hoopsville one, I think, is acting up, so we're just going to try that. All right, so Ryan Scott most weeks has joined us for a Top 25 double take on Sundays. Bob Quillman has joined us on occasion as well. Ryan unavailable tonight. Bob filling in for him. We'll get to him in a moment. We're going to talk about who the number one team in the country maybe should be, or who one can vote for. We'll also buy and sell some teams and see what else we can talk about here this evening. There's one question from our mysterious person who gives us all the fun questions and such that I might throw Bob's way. We'll see. But joining us on the Blue Frame Technology Hoopsville hotline via Skype is the aforementioned Bob Quillman. And, sir, as always, it is good to see you.
It's great to see you, Dave. It's good to be here on Hoopsville as always.
Thank you for taking the time. We got a little quirk. Skip tutorial. I don't know why that's popping up on my screen.
This is pretty big too, to be following Coach McGrath.
Yeah,
right?
And he referenced you, sir. He was paying attention to what you're doing. That's either good or bad. I'm not sure how you're going to take that.
It was first, but in this case, the varsity game was first, and I'm the JV, so I'm just happy to be following Coach McGrath. What an honor.
You're following a heck of a list tonight, actually, if you think about it. There was Gary Stewart earlier, Todd Murphy earlier. You've got Mike, who was on earlier. You've got a bit of a heavy lifting and expectations here.
I'm ready. I'm ready to try to fulfill, Dave.
Good luck, and I wish you luck. All right, so let's start with debatable. It's obvious because the number one team in the country, Nebraska Wesleyan, lost to Loris. I have said on this show, I've said on my blog, I expected no one to go undefeated this season. This does not surprise me in the slightest, any way, shape, or form. That all said, if you look, we now have 4 teams with 1 loss. Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, Whitman, and Oshkosh. Ironically, the first 2 both lost to Loris. You're a top 25 voter. I'm a top 25 voter. I kind of already know where you're headed with this, but is it a debate, and what kind of debate is it on who you're going to choose for that number 1 ballot when you turn it in?
It's a huge debate. You could make a case for, I believe, 4 teams. You could make a strong case for 4 teams. Now, I will tell you that I voted 2 hours ago because I didn't want to come on Hoopsville and you to play some Jedi mind tricks on me, and then all of a sudden I'm doubting myself. I voted, I hit submit, and I voted for Augustana as the number 1 team in the country. I have Nebraska Wesleyan 2, I have Oshkosh 3, and I have Whitman 4. There is a strong case to be made here for Nebraska Wesleyan just staying right where they are. You could also start to argue for Oshkosh and Whitman, but I think for many reasons, I think Augustana is just slightly ahead of the rest of the field.
And we should point out, now that we know Bob's one of those who got his vote in, I have not. I have too much to do here before that happens. 6 votes are in, last I was told, and there are votes for Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, and Whitman so far. That's not in any way to try and influence any voters out there. That's just the situation. I have a little bit of a precedent that I can stand on here, and ironically, it's with Augustana, because a few years ago, Augustana was my number 1 vote. They lost in a CCIW game, which was less than surprising to me, and I left them as my number 1 vote. So it's a little bit ironic here. I am, unless something really changes here, I'm very confident that I'm going to keep Nebraska Wesleyan my number 1 because, gosh darn it, first off, I expected them to lose this season. I expected them to lose in conference, and Loris was pretty much the team near the beginning of the season I figured was going to do it.
Yeah, this is going to be like election night, like watching votes come in Florida or Ohio or something. This is going to be close.
Yeah.
I think it's impossible here to win a debate because if you're leaving Nebraska Wesleyan because they lost on the road in a game that they were within 3 with 2 minutes left or whatever that was, absolutely you can make an amazing case. And they're the defending national champion. I'm more now at this point. I was waiting. I was feeling like eyeball test, like Augustana was the best team, and I was waiting for that Nebraska Wesleyan game at Loris. Because you have common opponent, common location. And once that result played out, to me it was just like, okay, I'm okay to make the change to the team that I feel eyeball-wise is the best. I've watched these teams play, granted not in person, but I just think that Augustana is a little bit better than Nebraska Wesleyan. If you say Nebraska Wesleyan, I'm not going to win that debate.
And certainly there's no way I think we can come up with who absolutely should be number 1. And there's no way I think that's a fair argument to make because, again, I think Oshkosh is probably going to have some votes. I have a feeling Whitman's already got at least 1. I think they're going to have some legitimate claims themselves. But let me just, for devil's advocate's sake, because you're voting for Augustana, let me ask, and I kind of know where the answer is going, so I feel like I'm teeing this one up for you, sir, or right nicely on a tee-ball. They've had close games. Elmhurst nearly tripped them up. Wheaton nearly tripped them up. Carthage nearly tripped them up in the last 2 weeks. Do you feel, and I'm more curious, do you feel confident that Augustana is the top team in the country with those close results versus Nebraska Wesleyan, who for the most part has been in control of most of their games?
It's a very fair point. And look, the way I look at it, Augustana found a way to win those games. They against Carthage, Nolan Ebel goes coast to coast in 5 seconds and scores. Against Elmhurst, they find a way to kind of grind that thing out with some free throws down the stretch. Every time they've been in a game, they find a way to win. And that is more than anything, Dave, the reason that I've changed my vote, because I keep watching them. Now, look, I'm rooting for Illinois Wesleyan here. So when Illinois Wesleyan was in the conference contention race, which they're not now, I'm rooting against Augustana. Let's just put the cards on the table. So I'm like, come on, Carthage, can we do this? Elmhurst, can we make a free throw? So I'm just incredibly impressed with Augustana and their resiliency, to use the University of Chicago's theme for the year, they always find a way to get it done. They have veteran leadership. They have experience, which Nebraska Wesleyan does too. And, more than anything, to me, I hang my hat on their defense. Their opponents, I think, are scoring at a rate of like 39%-ish. Nebraska Wesleyan with their zone is very good defensively too. But to me, Augustana, the thing is, even if they have a little bit of an off night offensively, and they're great offensively, they can lock you down for 40 minutes. And I just think they're the most complete team this year. I think they have literally zero holes.
That's a great point. I agree with you. I play the close games kind of like a double-edged sword. I sometimes put a lot of stock in them going, geez, they find a way to win. But at the same time, I start going, yeah, and they also find ways to nearly blow that. So I don't know where I sit. I think it depends sometimes on the team. I'm going to ask you this. I think it's about time we start talking about it. There's 5 games left in the regular season. 3 of them are going to be in Rock Island. North Central on the road's next. Then you got North Park, then Wheaton at home, and Milliken at home, those 3. Then on the road at Carthage. It's not easy, but could they? Could they go undefeated in this conference?
Yeah, so I've been saying this since they were like 3-0 in the league.
Yeah.
No one at Augustana is willing to say this out loud.
No.
If this was an Illinois Wesleyan thing, but you're saying could they go 16-0?
Could they do it for the first time since 1970, whatever?
Yeah, 45 years completed, and no one's gone undefeated in the CCIW. That includes 5 North Park National Championships, 1 Illinois Wesleyan National Championship, lots of Illinois Wesleyan Final Fours, and other great teams. Carthage had a Final Four team. North Central did. Augustana. Yeah. No one has gone undefeated. Could they? Yes. Will they? Yes. The only thing that could stop them is this crazy Aston Francis dude. That's the only thing that will stop Augustana, because they ain't losing to Naperville. Or actually, did they play already in Naperville?
They already played in Naperville.
Yeah, they're not losing to North Central and Rock Island.
I'm sorry. They're going to North Central. I apologize. That's the next game. They're at North Central next game.
That could be a little bit of a close game. Okay, fine. They're not going to lose. Aston Francis scoring 49 points is the only thing between Augustana and 16-0. I'm telling you, Dave, that is the only thing.
I'm with you. I think at North Central, I think it's the curveball. There's something about the Cardinals that just works for them. I can't explain it. North Park's been weird. I'm not saying that they're going to lose there. North Park's been weird. By the way, last time North Central lost a game.
Augustana, I will drive to your house, Dave, and take you out to the most expensive dinner in your town if North Park beats Augustana. I will do that immediately.
I already have 3 restaurants on my mind.
Right.
North Central's last loss, by the way, was to Augustana at the beginning of January. Then they've got that Wheaton game, and that one, you're right, Aston Francis is the challenge here. Milliken and Carthage, nothing against them, but if they get past Wheaton, put the champagne on ice. Wow. And by the way, Gray's already been on the show. He says, I don't care about the undefeated thing. It's winning the conference 5 years in a row. No one's done that before. We had Chris Martin, the conference commissioner, on the show. That's the same thing he said. It's not about going undefeated. It's about winning 5 conference titles in a row. That would be the more. If they did both,
it's not about it until you do it, and then you print the T-shirts that say 16-0. So let's see how it is when they do it. How about that?
It'd be fascinating. All right, so let's talk about some buy or sells. I don't think we've gotten any questions so far, which is totally fine. We don't need them. Let's see here. Ryan Scott says Francis scores 62. Augie still wins.
No, that absolutely could happen. Like he could score all of Wheaton's points except for one guy makes a free throw, and Augustana could win that game. Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. All right, so let's do some buy or sells. They're all over the country. I've only barely seen this list from our supplier, let's call him, my buyer. Bob has not heard any of these, so we're going to go random. We're not getting to all of them, though there's some good ones in here. I'm going to start in the NESCAC, sir. I think we've talked about this team in the past, but we're going to bring them back up. Hamilton, they're 16-2, 3-2 in the NESCAC. Preseason pick to make a Final Four run, according to our person here. Is it time to buy low on Hamilton or sell them off before they drop further in the NESCAC standings?
They're a very good team. I've watched Hamilton twice now, and they're a very good team. They're not they're not as good as what their current top 25 ranking is, in my opinion. I think if you look at their strength of schedule, it is not good. And I think they're more of a, maybe a bottom third of the top 25 team where things are very even. So I think good team that in this year, if you build an east-northeast kind of quadrant and Hamilton ends up in Fort Wayne, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
Yeah.
But I don't think they're like a top 10 team.
I'm with you. I've got them in my top 10 because they've risen there, but that's lost this week to Colby's going to easily give me a reason to move half a dozen teams ahead of them, if not more. They still got a game to make up against Amherst. They've got to play a non-conference against Wells, Bates, Tufts, Middlebury, Williams. In other words, they got the toughest part of this NESCAC coming up. If they get through that, I will eat my words. They are going to be proven. But I'm with you. I'm willing to sell them a little bit right now because I don't think they can get through this NESCAC. But I'm with you. Doesn't mean the right scenario can't present itself and Hamilton get through that. I like how you think. Let's jump to this one. UW Stevens Point. They are 13-5, 5-3 in the WIAC. We could also double this down with Platteville at 12-7, 5-3 in the WIAC. We knew the conference was going to be a beast, but it feels like maybe it's eaten up Stevens Point a little bit more than many were expected. And granted, they've won the last two against Stout and Eau Claire, but they got La Crosse, River Falls, Whitewater in the next three. Oshkosh, Stout, Platteville to finish. Are Stevens Point, you buying in that they can maybe get this in the right direction, or are you willing to sell them off at this point?
I'm buying. I mean, if you look at their season, Dave, I mean, it's pretty amazing the schedule they've played. Their losses at Augustana in overtime, at St. Thomas. St. Thomas looks like they may be a top 6 or 7 team right now at the moment. That was at St. Thomas versus Oshkosh, who may be, number 3 or 4?
Yep.
And versus La Crosse, who probably deserves to be ranked.
Agreed.
Now, the only head-scratcher to me is the fact they lost to La Crosse at home, and they lost to Platteville at home.
Yeah.
So I'm
back, by the way.
Yeah, I'm not sure what to make, but I'm going to say this, is that, that's a team that you do not want on the other side of your bracket on that Monday when the pairings come out. If you're whoever and you see Wisconsin Stevens Point as some kind of low seed, that is a bad day for you. And I am buying the pointers at this point.
The only thing I'll say, and I'm kind of leaning your ways, the only thing I'll say now is a lot of their wins now don't look all that great. The St. Olaf win is kind of a throwaway. The Hope win now is nothing to talk about. Illinois Wesleyan win really isn't worth talking about. Whitewater win right now is kind of muddied. What we can talk about are their losses. That's what's weird is their big games are now Augustana, St. Thomas, Oshkosh, La Crosse, and they've lost all of them.
Well, look at their road. So their games left at La Crosse, at Whitewater, Oshkosh, and at Platteville. So we'll know soon enough. Like, this isn't going to be a lot of drama here. They're either going to get it together or they're not going to be a Pool C candidate. I believe they're going to get it together.
Yeah, and I'm going to and for the reason you just brought up, it was funny because I was starting to buy. But the fact that they've got to go to La Crosse in their next game on Wednesday, they got to go to Whitewater in a week and a half, to Oshkosh in 2 weeks, and just for argument's sake, because Platteville beat them, they got to go to Platteville to finish the season. I'm on the sell side. I might still have them in my top 25, but I'm a little bit sellish with them right now.
And that would be the ultimate indicator of how good the Wisconsin League is, because if at the end of this, if that's not an NCAA tournament team, that would really show you the, kind of the disadvantage, if you will, of playing in a league that's that strong, because they're one of the top 20 teams in the country. I can promise you that. They're just going to lose a bunch of games.
I'd agree. We knew the WIAC was going to eat itself a little bit. We felt the teams would rise to the top, but you're exactly right. We're showing that maybe it's too difficult. Not that you can change that, but it might be too difficult. Big Ten, a lot of people are saying, is the same thing. In D1. Hey, here's an interesting one I'm going to buy and sell on. Out of the ODAC, Guilford, 15-5, but 9-2 in the conference. They've only lost one game since December came in existence, or we turned the calendar to December. Their 4 previous losses were all in November when they jammed in 7 games. They have beaten Randolph-Macon at home, granted. They have beaten, or they've lost to Roanoke. That's the only kind of blemish we can't figure out right now. They've got interesting finish. They got Hampden-Sydney, which isn't worth talking about. They got Roanoke at Roanoke, Bridgewater on the road, Emory and Henry at home, and Washington and Lee also at home. And W&L is an interesting team. I don't know what to make with them. The note here to stay, or will they hit a hiccup?
Well, again, I think the big thing is their road the rest of the way. They don't play Lynchburg, right? As you point out, they don't play Randolph-Macon. They're done with both of those.
Yeah, they beat Lynchburg, we should point out, on the road 88-82 in overtime.
Yeah, so I mean, I think you got to say that you're buying on them at this point. With where they are in the conference standings, they're in great shape. The ODAC has kind of come back this year with Randolph-Macon, Lynchburg, and those two teams have been on the radar all season long, and now Guilford. So the ODAC, it seems like, was down for a few years, and looks like it is back. But I think I'm going to buy on Guilford.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm buying a bit here. They've impressed me in ODAC play, and the ODAC, I think, is just as tough as it's been in years. Randolph-Macon has shown to be a gem of a team, and they beat them. They beat Lynchburg, who's shown to be a great team this year, and Roanoke's kind of seems to be getting the wheels back, and they lost to them. So yeah, I'm willing to buy into Guilford right now, and I do like that last five, but the conference tournament's going to be a beast. Real going to curveball here, LaRoche out of the AMCC, 17-2, 12-0 in the conference. They play Penn State Barron on Wednesday. LaRoche won the last meeting 74-64. LaRoche is one of those teams we don't talk a lot about because a lot of people, you just don't get excited when we talk AMCC. But LaRoche seems to be maybe putting something together here.
Yeah, so surprisingly, this was a curveball, but like of all the fates that align, like I watched them play a game in the last, I guess it was 2 weeks.
Look at you.
And you know what? They're pretty darn good. Like this is one of those seasons where that's the kind of team that could end up in the Elite Eight, like easy.
Yeah.
Because of the way that, maybe the bracket is made or something, they get some good matches. But I mean, look, they're 17-2, they're 12-0 in the conference, as you mentioned. And I think I'm trying to sell on somebody, but I want to sell, but I'm buying again, Dave. Like I'm buying.
You sold Hamilton.
I did sell Hamilton. I'm going to buy LaRoche, though.
Here's the other thing, too, is there a team that can either easily host or get shipped for teams for the Mid-Atlantic and East? They can either host a lot of teams because they're in Pittsburgh, or they can go places, to your point, of a team that can make a run. They're in a good position here.
Like, I think I might sponsor a couple planes, and we're put a bunch of teams on planes, and we're going to ship them to Lincoln, Nebraska and Rock Island, Illinois.
Yeah.
Like, if we could just get a bunch of teams over there, that would be a good thing.
I will say they're a little bit tricky here. They're on the road for the next 3 and 5 of their last 6. Penn State, Barron, Pitt, Bradford, Franciscan, then at home against Medaille, then on the road against Mount Oleosius and Penn State, Altoona. I'm not talking about those teams are suddenly great that they can beat LaRoche. It's just a grind. 5 of your next 6 are road trips out of Pittsburgh in what is going to be lousy weather, at least for the next week. That could be the only thing I could see tripping up LaRoche, but I think it might be time to buy in a little bit. Absolutely.
They're a good team, and we'll see what happens, but they seem like they're ready for a tournament run.
We're running a little long here, and I'm enjoying this, so we're going to keep it going for at least one more pick. I'm jumping back into the CCIW here. This person said it's a good candidate for sell, he thinks. North Central, 17-3, 9-2 in the CCIW.
I disagree. I think North Central has been a little bit underrated here the last few weeks. I know why they weren't in the top 25 a couple weeks ago. Is because their strength of schedule was so weak. But look, if you look at where North Central is right now in the league, in arguably a top 3, a top 2, a top 3 conference in Division III. North Central is in phenomenal shape right now. They're 17-3 overall. They're 9-2 in the league. They have lost a couple key players, Big Say Bronick, and of course Aiden Chang, their point guard.
Yeah.
But they have replaced them with very talented guys that were on the bench or are playing sparingly. I think North Central is a team kind of like a Stevens Point. Like, you don't want to play them early in the tournament if they're a lower seed than you and they come in as an underdog. They seem like a clear number 2 team in the league to me right now. Like, I think they're a little better than Wheaton is.
I don't know what to make of them. I saw him in Vegas. I don't know what to make of him. You talk about mulligans. We talk about mulligans on the board. I thought it was great because I always have had a mulligan point of view. I just never used that term. Where a team has a loss, you sit there going, you did what? But in this age of parity, you got to throw one away. You got to say, it's like Nebraska Wesleyan losing to Loras. It's like Loras losing to Butte. You got to take a loss and go, gone. And I agree with you. It's the second one you go, woo, wait a minute. We need to talk. Their loss to North Park is a head scratcher, but in the mulligan world, I'm willing to throw that out. It's the loss to Ohio Northern that makes you go, what did you do? And that happened in front of me. They beat Husson. I almost felt like they thought it was going to be easy against Ohio Northern. And guess what? The big man inside said, hi, my name is All-American. My concern, though, is the end here, Bob. Their next game's at home against Augustana, at home against Illinois Wesleyan, at home against Wheaton, then on the road against Carthage and Elmhurst. I know they're home games, but that's a bit of a beast, even if Illinois Wesleyan isn't their best.
Well, I don't think that they're going to beat Augustana, so I'm on record there, so that's a loss. I think the game against Illinois Wesleyan is a coin flip. I think the game against Aston Francis, a.k.a. Wheaton, is a coin flip. I think the game at Carthage is a coin flip, and I think the game at Elmhurst is a coin flip. You may have just Jedi mind tricked me into a cell, Dave. This is why I voted earlier, before I came on the show tonight. I think I'm in a mid-buy position at this point. After talking through this has been very therapeutic. Thank you. And
You're
I
welcome.
think a mid-buy position with the Cardinals.
You're welcome on any show if you'd like on Sundays. I've seen them in person, and I like pieces that they have. Yes, injuries have been tough, and I feel bad because they lost some good talent, though Chang is hysterical to watch. And Vegas, because he can go scooting behind the bench the entire game. I know he can't do that everywhere. I just don't know what it is about him that concerns me. I can't speak about it, but I've seen it happen, if that makes any sense. I'm mid-buy, too. I got him 21 on my ballot last week. I think this next run is going to either make them implode or make them excel.
Now, let me ask you this, Mr. McHugh.
I don't think it's a middle ground is what I'm trying to say. Yeah.
Let me try a Jedi mind trick on you, Dave. So we just talked about North Central's schedule the rest of the way. So let me bring up your boys, Whitworth, the Pirates.
Yeah.
If Whitworth had North Central's remaining 5 games versus Augustana, versus Illinois Wesleyan, versus Wheaton, at Carthage, at Elmhurst, what would Whitworth's record be in those 5 games?
At worst, 4-1.
Maybe 5-0, you're saying?
I think they give Augustana a hell of a game.
Let me try this one. What would Whitworth's record be with Illinois Wesleyan's schedule? 2 games against Augustana, Whitman, Stevens Point, North Central. What would Whitworth's record be with Illinois Wesleyan's schedule? How many losses would they have?
I'm actually looking at it. So 2 losses, maybe 3 if someone snuck on them. Because their depth is, when they get to the bench, I get worried. But that core group of 7-8 is some of the best that Whitworth's had.
You and I, different spots on Whitworth, because I think Whitworth with Illinois Wesleyan still has 6 losses right now.
No, they're better than that. And listen, I get where you're coming from, Mike, because I read your comments, made me think. Again, I saw them in Vegas. I've watched a lot of them on tape. They rise to the occasion. My concerns are twofold. They sometimes don't rise to everybody. That's why I think someone would trip them up. And if you go too deep in their bench, they're not consistent. They were great against Whitman when they had to go deep in the bench. Nearly got them a win in that game. But the Willamette game kind of is where that all comes together for me. That's why I think at their best, they're a 2-loss team in that Illinois Wesleyan schedule. I can see where you argue 6 or 7. I'm not going to doubt that, but I don't think it would happen.
Fair enough. So for the listeners, this is my chance of just throwing a little buy-sell at Dave. I don't get to pick the teams. This is me kind of throwing.
I like it.
I enjoy
it. They're a top 10 team to me. I know you don't feel that way. That's why there's 25 voters.
Yeah, I think they're a good team. I think they're like 20. That's kind of where I see them. Like I see them down where the North Centrals and Wheatons are. They're somewhere in there.
You've known me long enough to know that I've had those teams too. There were people who lost their minds over teams in the Central that I wouldn't put lofty, and I had a middle ground. That's why we have 25 voters around the country, because we see it differently.
That's why we vote.
I got a question. Hold on. Someone says, watch both shows all season. I assume he means all day of the week, or both shows of the week. And no, you don't believe in Worcester, but Dave believe. I'm going to throw that one at you, and then I got one more, and we'll wrap things up. Worcester. Listen, the Wabash game is now making me look at it. But I haven't been a big buyer of Worcester this season. I can't put my finger on it. Inconsistency is the only thing that comes to mind quickly, but I just haven't been able to buy into the Scots.
The last time we did this, I was a Worcester buyer. I'm still buying. They're 16-3 overall. They're 11-1, tied for the NCAC lead right now. Let's look at their remaining schedule.
Oh, it's tough. Ohio Wesleyan, Kenyon, Ohio Wesleyan, Denison, Wittenberg, Oberlin, DePaul.
But the Wittenberg game is at home.
Yeah.
Right. Ohio Wesleyan isn't Ohio Wesleyan from the last 3 years.
No, it's just at their place.
I mean, if you look
at me ready.
1, 2, 3, I think there's one loss there. I mean, Whitworth would go undefeated against the schedules, according to you. I digress. I think
yes,
Worcester. I think Worcester loses just one more game and rolls into the tournament as a rated number 12 team, high seed, ready to do some damage. I like Worcester.
Well, and to be honest, and that's why I'm starting to buy in a little bit. They have a loss to Wabash. They have a loss to Whitman. They have a loss to Sul Ross. They had a horrible stretch there, losing 3 straight. Got back on the ship with a win at home back on the boat with a win against Ohio Wesleyan at home. That's why I'm starting to buy in. It's just something. There's nothing about them that to me has screamed we're a great team. I think they're well coached. Steve Moore does a great job. I just haven't been able to buy in. That said, the win over Wabash was, now granted, at their place. They've split basically both teams at their home place. I thought certainly has turned my opinion, and I'm probably will put them into my top 25 this week. But it'll be interesting. I got about 20 teams I could argue into the top 25 right now. But yeah, no, I'm impressed. I think, though, I agree with you. I think they got at least one loss in that group. I would not be surprised if they had 2.
But I think even with 2, it looks like they're in pretty good shape here. Pool C, Pool A, whatever the case.
Oh, I think they may make the tournament. Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that. Last question, a curveball. We're going to get you ready for our Sunday show in about a month's time. If you had to pick, because Pool B actually is a conversation this year, if you had to pick one of them right now out of these 3, Gwynedd Mercy at 14-6, 6-1 in the New Atlantic East, Marywood 13-6, 5-1 in the same conference, Thomas More 14-7, technically not in the conference. They will have the ACAA to play in.
You know, this is when you ask me questions, sometimes I go over here to this computer and I kind of buy myself some time. I'm not even trying to do that at this point. I'm going to say that Gwynedd Mercy is my pick there because they really can defend you. I'm just making things up, Dave, but that's my pick at this point. I was going to pick Thomas More only because their women's program was so good for so long, but I really have no idea on these 3 teams. Ryan Scott would have this down. This, folks, is what you're losing with Ryan Scott being out of town right now.
I would actually agree with you. I think Gwynedd Mercy's got the edge there, but I've also haven't dived into some of the other numbers, as in, SOS and all that jazz. I just know Thomas Moore's SOS isn't going to be that great, and they've already got 7 losses. That's kind of where I'm sitting there with that one. That, sir, is much longer than I anticipated us talking. I am much later into this show than I expected us to be. By the way, Dan says Wittenberg has a nice gym. You are right. They do. Ryan asks, has Bob watched Yeshiva yet?
I have not. That's a viewing list for this week, actually. Now that the Titans of Illinois Western are struggling a little bit, I can watch Yeshiva more than I planned on. So this week it will be.
Ryan Scott also says Barron is going to win over LaRoche this week, probably because we've just jinxed him by talking about him.
Because I bought.
Yep, and you bought, yep. And then he said, I wouldn't ever bet on Worcester, but their schedule is pretty strong and they've earned a decent ranking.
Absolutely.
I agree with him. Hey, sir, it's always fun to talk to you. I don't know if we'll get you on the marathon on Thursday, but we will get you on the show at a later date to be sure. We got to get you a couple times maybe before Sunday, the selection night. But thanks as always. Any final thoughts to those out there who've been tuning into this madness?
No, I think great season so far. To me, one of the leagues that's fun to watch the rest of the way will be the UAA. What's happening there with that little tie they have to sort out, I think that's going to be really cool to watch. And I think the parity throughout the league, even, throughout the country, even after Augustana, Nebraska Wesleyan, that group, I think you've got legitimately 10 teams that could win the national championship. It's going to be a fun stretch here.
Yeah, no, it's going to be, to quote Mike McGrath, we're going to have Gary Stewart, that's what I'm trying to say. We're going to have an absolutely wide open tournament. It's going to be fun to watch, to be sure. Thank you for your time, sir. As always, take care of yourself. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave. See you. Bye-bye.
Yep. Bob Quillman joining us here on the Blue Frame Technology Skype Hoopsville hotline. Appreciate Bob taking the time to do that. We're going to wrap up the show at this point because we're well past when I thought we'd be done. Not sure why my audio is jumping around like it is today. I'm a little bit, now my audio is higher than it was again with Bob, but I apologize. We'll figure out that little glitch. Again, so much going on. Who's going to be number one in Division III men's basketball tomorrow evening when the poll is revealed? Great question. I don't know the answer. Bob is leaning towards Augustana. I'm on a Nebraska Wesleyan train. There's already been at least one Whitman vote that's come in. It's going to be fascinating to see. I think all four of those teams have an argument. Nebraska Wesleyan, Augustana, Whitman, and Oshkosh. Heck, St. Thomas maybe even has an argument, though I think maybe not. Pomona Pitzer is about the only one-loss team, I'm going to tell you, does not have an argument at this point. But everybody, it's going to be a fascinating top 25. A lot of losses. Again, Thursday seemed like things were relatively calm, and then things blew up by the time we got here on this evening. With that, we're going to wrap things up. Again, the marathon is coming up on Thursday. We'll start at 12 o'clock. I've got a long list of guests, a mixture of interviews with schools and a mixture of people who are involved in Division III in some shape or form. We'll hopefully talk to both committee chairs as well, which we traditionally do, but not always. Sometimes their schedules just don't allow it, but we'll figure it out. We'll also hear from Danielle Donahue, the head of the Women's Basketball Coaches Association. We've been talking to her yearly. Look forward to talking to her yet again about the state of women's basketball from her point of view. And plus many others. So we'll release information Monday and Tuesday as we get into Thursday, and then you'll see myself right here, sitting here getting this show on the air Thursday. Again, cutting back due to personal reasons and for a lot of others. There's a number of you ask about our fundraising efforts. We've done some decently well with advertising, but I realize there's a lot of you that want to give us back. We appreciate that. As a result of that, we will find a way to find some kind of way of doing a fundraiser. We can't do the legwork that the old fundraisers did. It's just we don't have the time anymore. But we'll find some way to give you a chance to help us. We appreciate that. We're very honored by that. I just need to find the right system that doesn't take a lot of money, doesn't require a ton of time on our end. We'll figure it out and let you know all about it. In the meantime, thanks to all of our guests here tonight who appeared on the show, from Randy Tuggle at Greensboro Women's Basketball, Nicole Sarcone at Staten Island Women's Basketball, Gary Stewart at Stevenson University, Todd Murphy at Gordon, Mike McGrath at Chicago, and, of course, Bob Quillman, Titan Q from IWUHoops.com. I appreciate them taking the time. I also appreciate all the sports information directors, from Wes at Greensboro, David at Staten Island, Greg Royce at Stevenson, everybody in between who helped us out. It means a lot when they can help us out and get this show on the air and get content to us, which also is a big help for us. So we appreciate everybody who helped us out along the way. Kendall, by the way, we forgot about Kendall at Gordon, and of course Nathan and Nicole at Chicago. So appreciate everybody taking the time. Don't forget, Hoopsville is owned by us at DMAC Productions and myself. If you'd like to use this show in any way, shape, or form, we appreciate it. We would be honored. Thank you, but please contact us so we can officially write off on it that we approve of your use and re-airing of our show. If you missed any portion of it, please feel free to watch this on demand or listen to the podcast. Speaking of the podcast, if you're a fan of the podcast, please go and give give us a review, at least, some stars or whatever. Whether you're watching us on SoundCloud, whether you listening to us on SoundCloud, or you're listening to us through Google Play or Spotify or Apple Podcasts, whatever the case may be, give us a review. I noticed recently that we don't have any. It's not the end of the world, but it would be kind of nice. It also would drive some recognition for others who may be looking out for the show as well. And with that, we've got to get off the air. We are way too late into this. Congratulations to Bowdoin, who got past Amherst in a big game. I again predicted this on the podcast. You missed this, but I predicted that Bowdoin will probably separate itself from Thomas More in tomorrow's top 25, whereas on the men's side, it's a free-for-all. I wouldn't be surprised if Nebraska Wesleyan stayed number 1. I also would not be shocked in the slightest if they fell to even 3rd or 4th, the way sometimes voters react to losses. And with that, we say goodnight. You've been listening to Hoopsville, presented by D3Hoops.com from the WBCA NABC Studios. We thank our sponsors, the Women's Basketball Coaches Association, National Basketball Coaches Association, of course, D3Hoops.com, and Blue Frame Technology. If you're interested in advertising or being a sponsor on this program, please let us know. You can join the likes of University of Eau Claire, Athletics, and Randolph-Macon as well. You've been listening to Hoopsville. If you want to talk about Division III basketball, you've got to watch Hoopsville. Good night, everybody. See you on the marathon on Thursday.